Thank you.
Phones on silent. Phones on silent. Phones on silent. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 8th, 2018 public meeting of the California State Athletic Commission. I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you for coming. Good morning, commissioners. We start our meetings with call to order. Mr. Foster, please do call the roll.
Chairman Carvelli,
Here.
Vice Chairman Lehman,
Here.
Commissioner Frierson,
Here.
Commissioner Martha Senior-Quidez. Mr. Walker's asking that you confirm the location. Thank you.
So you confirm the Blue Moon Cafe, Kihei, Hawaii? Okay, good.
Commissioner Sauter,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Ayala.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Good morning to you, Mr. Walker. Please all stand. Pledge to this. Okay. Would you like to start us off? To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So that completes agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2. A few opening remarks. Once again, good morning. My name is John Carvelli. I pulled out a memorandum that I had taken the time to write and to offer to anybody that was listening in the Athletic Commission world. And I thought I would read it as a reminder to all of us. If you would, so bear with me. And it's October 2nd, 2015, to all licensed officials of the California State Athletic Commission. Subject is a notice regarding criteria for assignment of CSAC officials. The California State Athletic Commission, by way of internal policy, has given the exclusive authority to the executive officer to assign officials. The Commission has directed the executive officer to consider assignments based upon the criteria outlined below. Any officials who believe the criteria are not being followed or have issues with their assignments are encouraged to address their concerns before the Commission, whether in writing or in person, or on a publicly noticed Commission meeting. Meeting dates can be found on the Commission website. Please know that it is not appropriate to directly approach the executive officer to complain about or lobby for assignments. Officials who do so may not be assigned in the future. Criteria for assignment of officials is, in sum, experience, qualifications, track record, reputation in the field, scheduling flexibility, positive cooperative attitude, and CSAC budget constraints, among other things. The list will be updated from time to time as necessary. Once again, dated October 2nd, 2015. That will conclude my opening remarks for today, folks. Thank you. Agenda item number 3. Approval of the February 27, 2018 Commission meeting minutes.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to recommend the minutes be tabled because staff went through and discovered that it is not, but minutes are complete.
Mr. Foster.
Yeah. Commissioner Senior Quidez and I worked, Commissioner Senior Quidez worked with Heather Jackson last night before the meeting, that there were substantial corrections across the entire, and it would be better if we can provide the commissioners with a cleaner copy that all the commissioners are pleased with, and that way we don't have to go through this many changes. It's significant. Did I get that, Commissioner Senior Quidez?
Got it.
So is Commissioner Shannon-Quidez requesting that to be tabled because of the number of
Yes.
changes?
Yes.
Is there any downside of waiting another 2 months to
No.
approve these? Do those minutes for anything?
Commissioners, do you have any objections to tabling these minutes for approval until next meeting? Seeing none, let's table the minutes for the next meeting. I guess we can also talk about why that happened, but we can do that in preparation for the next meeting. Okay, agenda item number 4. Review and possible action on petition to change the decision for Michael Guy versus Junior Yonan bout on July 29, 2017 in Long Beach, California. I know this item was continued a couple of times. Are you prepared, Mr. Foster? Is this item ready for the commission to consider?
Mr. Chairman, this item is as ready as the materials that we have. I've spent significant time with the department, with Caesar, who's I think in here doing the video. He has.
So you're ready.
We're ready.
Why don't you
We're ready to
present
show.
then, please? And I see in agenda item number 4 there are materials that were submitted to us when you sent us our commission packets. So please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, the appellant is Mike Guy. Mr. Yonan is was the declared winner on this contest. We granted the continuance once in December, and then again on behalf of Mr. Yonan back at the February meeting. Mr. Guy is present here, but the basic synopsis of this appeal involves the fact that Mr. Guy believes he should be credited for 3 knockdowns that the licensed CSAC referee didn't call. And had he received those knockdowns, he would have won. That's the synopsis.
Okay. Somebody represents him.
Yeah, we have the videos ready that Mr. Guy has provided. Do you want to come up and walk the commissioners through what you want to show them? I think that's.
Is he going to have a chance to come up, Mr. Guy, please, and introduce yourself? And
Are they on here, Heather?
They're on a conference. Dino and Josh are on the phone.
And also, sir, Dino Duba and Josh Dubin, who represents Mr. Young, are on speaking phone. They're listening in to what we're doing.
Are they his attorneys?
Yes, Mr. Dubin is his attorney. Mr. Duba is his promoter.
Good morning, Mr. Guy.
Good morning, I'm Michael Guy.
Please speak up because we're being.
Michael Guy.
Thank you. Please tell us what you have to say.
So let's look at the 3 events that I'm contesting.
I asked him
No,
that.
not Heather. Someone else.
It's, the person is not here. I asked him earlier, but he walked away. Let me see if I can try.
It's all right. We can talk.
I'm not sure which video he was. Wasn't that? I'm not sure which one he was. Which one he was? Which video? This one?
We're probably going to hear more of that.
We can hear you now, but the second, but we can't hear anything else.
Well, nobody else is talking. Yeah, but we're getting it fixed, so hopefully you guys can hear us.
Yeah, we can hear you now, I think.
Commissioner Senior Quidez, still here? Okay.
Commission.
Yes. I mean, Would it be helpful?
It should be right
Is
behind.
that helpful or no?
Thank you.
I can hear you pretty good now.
Thank you.
Andy, you'll help Mr. Guy explain what's going on here, please.
So this one is environmental 8. I was gonna start with round 7, the first one. So here he was trying to evade punches, which anytime you're evading any punches or the ropes or any part of your body touch the canvas, according to Rule 368, that's considered an knockdown. I also have slow motion video if you guys have it, so you can see it more closely.
We have it all, sir.
The next
I'm
one.
assuming you guys are just going through the video right now.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Dugan, we are.
All right, thank you. Reference to round number 8.
Perfect.
Sorry. It
Uh,
was an odd, I think.
Maybe the background music will help.
Do you want it muted?
Yes, muted. We don't need the announcers.
no, that was Norm because he couldn't be here.
Oh,
Yeah,
you want to play?
yeah.
Okay, don't unmute it, Heather.
Who are we listening to?
Norm, he helps Mike and Jill.
Where is Norm?
He wasn't able to make it.
Reference to round number 8, with approximately 1 minute 29 seconds left in the 8th round. Mr. Yorman was against the ropes and he avoided a left hook. Then got hit with a hard right hand and a left hook to the body and went down. Now he also went down with approximately 23 seconds left in the 8th round, where he avoided a big right hand and went to his knee to avoid the punch. If you study the video, you can place 2 strips in the category of falling into the canvas to avoid someone punishment. Mr. Yorman and Mr. Guy were very close to one another in this exchange. Mr. Guy did not slip once. And the second thing that should be noted is the referee did not apply the knockdown rule in accordance with its definition, which states that it can be ruled a knockdown when, as a result of a legal blow or a series of legal blows, where a contestant tries to avoid a punch, and any part of his body other than his feet touches the ground or the canvas, it can be ruled a knockdown. We're asking the Commission to reverse the decision and declare Mike Guy the winner. We would like the employment of Rule 368 to right this wrong.
Mr. Guy,
Yes.
we just watched. Did you want to tell us what punch that we missed?
It
That put him
the
down?
right hand. He was trying to evade from the left hand.
Can you show us the punch? Because I just didn't see any punches.
So when I missed him with the left hand, it was the right hand
He's going to have to wait till we call on him.
that actually landed before he went down. So the left hand missed him, but the right hand touched him before he went down.
Right, can we see it?
So don't look like that far. So
His avoided also went down.
Go a little bit further.
Once.
a little bit past the middle.
The knockdown is over. Where a contestant.
So right here, this is where I made contact.
You mean this downward?
Yeah, that one made contact, then he went down, and this one barely grazed him, but that wasn't the one that started the fall. It was the one prior.
You're saying that's a knockdown punch?
Yeah, so I missed him with the left, landed the right, and skinned him with the left again after.
You have other examples?
Yeah, if she goes to round 7.
You can tell those folks that they'll have a chance to.
Yes, sir.
Have to wait their turn.
Mr. Dugan, the chairman may let you know that you
Is this round 7?
Is that the correct round?
I see it.
Almost exactly around 7 at that point, the studio punches the exit in the ropes. He was likely to
Yeah.
Yeah.
He then started sliding nails and stole.
Alright, they're all playing the sound.
Around the legs, and he couldn't hold. He then continued to slide to the canvas.
Is this a recording of this voice? This is
It's a video
It's a
player.
recording of that.
Yes,
Well, maybe if Mr. Gunnison is here, it tells us what we're watching.
So, if you hit play,
1 minute 7 seconds after round 7, where Mr. Guy pinned Mr. Yeoman in the corner and hit him with several punches that were very hard and landed clean. At that point, Mr. Yeoman legs had hit the ropes.
Stop the sound, please.
Holding his body, and the ropes were holding.
can you fast forward?
Mr. Guy, the more that you explain, the better off it's going to be for us.
Yeah, this is not on the part, this is really a good forward.
Feel free to say whatever you think is. It's your chance to.
So this is gonna take us,
It's muted.
so right here, this is why I throw, remember, 5 shots. You're gonna see some of the shots are landing, and he starts trying to get away from the shots, and then he loses his balance. As you can see, he's not clearly there. He's trying to grab onto me. I tried to slide down to get his arms off of me, and then the ropes were holding him up, but he couldn't sit down because you would see the rope was under his butt, so he turned to the side to keep evading the shots. Then he crawls over to the ropes, and this took about 9 seconds, the same amount of time it would have took for a person that was given a standing 8 count. So he's trying to hold. He's clearly not all the way there. And I'm just trying to get him loose. So he can't go down because the ropes was under his butt. So he bends down a little bit lower. And he's falling forward. I'm trying to step back. And that's not my weight. He's going down on its own. So then he crawls to the ropes, use the ropes to help him to get up, to buy him more time.
Is it that round 8? This round 8?
Yes. So he's crawling up right here. He's not all the way there. So then the ropes, the referee shakes his hands. And then that one also has a slip. We also had the same exact shoes on, just different colors, and I threw punches in the same places he did, and never losing any traction. And I think this is the last of the body shots. No, that's the other. I think we may have skipped one.
Let's begin.
Yeah, this is just the fast version of the last one.
Those are all the ones we have.
There's one more with the body shot, when I hit with the right to the body, left to the body. I think, yeah.
You saw round 3 and round 7.
No, this isn't that one. Yes, it is. So I hit him with the right to the body and the left to the body. And I tried to step back as clear as possible to make it known that that was a knockdown and he wasn't slipping or he wasn't being pushed or anything. And I don't see a slip with his feet stayed in the same exact spot the whole entire time. He never lost traction. Once again, the ref gave him time to get himself up, shake his gloves, and also ruled that one as a slip. This particular one, if you can actually show the fast version, you can kind of see the shots really
That's
clean.
number 4.
What club number are you on?
We're looking at the 4th row on the body shot.
Okay. Are we gonna go through each one of these?
So you go here, right there, then he went down right from the last left hook to the body. And that was all the 3 knockdowns. And that should be the end of them.
Okay, Mr. Guy, you still have the floor. Whatever else you'd like to say? Is that?
Commissioner Montes, I think, should do.
I'd just like to say the knockdown in round 7 changed the whole fight. I hope you see it this way. The reason for my argument is the appointment of the rule of 368, and if that rule is still in effect, as of now and the time of the fight, I should be declared the winner.
Can you tell us the scores? What were the final scores?
That the scores. I don't have those exact scores that you said.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other representatives with you?
It's just me.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add right now?
That would be it.
Okay. So let's open it up to the commissioners to ask questions. Mr. Guy, Vice Chair Leonard?
I seem to recall before there were the scores, and I thought that even if you just found one knockdown, that would change the result. So I think that's pretty important that you know.
May I ask to use the microphones, please? Thank you.
As I recall before, seeing the paperwork, there were the scores provided. And maybe I can pull that up, or someone can pull that up. And as I recall, even if we just found one knockdown, that changes the result. But I don't recall whether it changes the result to a draw or a win.
I think it could have been one knockdown would have been a draw, 2 knockdowns would have been a win, and the 3rd knockdown would also been a win.
Okay. I think that's important. Because you're contending right now that there's 3 knockdowns.
Yeah.
Anything else? Dr. Williams? No, any questions for you? Commissioner Tyson? Commissioner Ayala?
Yeah, I was wondering if the referee has reviewed these videos.
I'm not sure if he's seen them, but the last the meeting, the main thing he was just talking about was not even about the knockdown, but just about how aggressive my corner was, which had nothing to do with what I think he was seeing today. He said they were animated, and I felt there was a form of animosity towards the corner, which made him want to say, "Oh, that's a slip, that's a slip, that's a slip," because aggressive my corner was, so he used that, took that out on me as a fighter.
Commissioner Ayala, he is here. Would you like to bring him up?
Sure.
Mr. Edgepest, would you come on up, please? Would you share the microphone, please? Introduce yourself, please.
Wayne Hitchback, Boston 3. Yes,
So I would just like to know, based on the videos you just viewed, and
Yeah.
based on any reviews you've had prior to this, what your thoughts are. And
What? Well, I wrote a report, and I submitted that, and I went over each video point for point to express my discretion as a referee in what I saw. There was no punch that delivered a definitive knockdown, as Mr. Guys claimed. He used his body weight. If you looked at that last round, he used his body weight when Mr. Young was on the ropes. He pressed down upon him. Very good to be able to do that. Make it look like a knockdown, but there was no definitive punch that landed it, therefore called a knockdown. That's why it was ruled a slip. And throughout the course of the fight, from almost the very beginning, I had cautioned Mr. Guy to stop wrestling, clearly letting him know that this is a boxing ring and that his tactics were wrong for this venue. And that occurred several times throughout the fight. In one of the rounds that you saw, as the fight concluded, he hit the man while he was down. He hit right on top of his head while he was down. This was in the 8th round, last and final round. Throughout the course of the fight, he used a lot of tactics to foul his opponent. And these things just are not tolerated.
Commissioner
Who's Norman Tagalero?
Sorry, do you mind getting the microphone closer to you?
Coaches. Is he going to testify?
No, he's elderly. He's sick right now, so he can.
All right. Those are all my questions.
Commissioner Sadler?
No questions.
Chair, do you have more questions?
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that. It really helps our job, and I appreciate your lengthy, memo explaining what you saw in the video. But just to clarify, I understand that there were reports that you thought that Mr. Guy was, pressing fouls or, wrestling or, hitting when the guy was on the ground. But technically, that doesn't change the rules for when a knockdown occurs, correct?
Correct. It does. If you use your body weight to press up on a person who's on the ropes, and he's leaning down because he averted your punches, and you use your body weight to lean on him and push him further to the canvas, that's not a knockdown.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Martha, do you have questions for Mr. Guy or Mr. Hedgepath?
I don't have any questions. I do have some comments when you're ready for them.
That will be on a motion. We're still listening. So let's give an opportunity.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure, yes, sir.
Do you remember ever being warned during the fight about wrestling tactics or?
There was.
Sir, would you mind using the microphone, please?
There was one warning. He did say no wrestling. But Yona and I, we both got warnings. He was also warned 3 times for holding. This I didn't come here for the warnings or about all the holding that he did and never got the point taken away. It's just about the knockdown.
Okay, we can hear from Mr. Young's representatives.
Mr. Dugan, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah. If you'll just state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Josh Dugan. I'm the co-manager along with James Prince of Mr. Junior Unit. Our promoter, Rock Nation, Mr. Dino Duba is on the line. I want to thank the members of the commission, Mr. Executive Chairman, and the executive and vice executive directors for hearing us and understanding I'm in the middle of a trial, so it was tough for me to get out to the West Coast. I was in the midst of writing a written response, and I have appeared before this fine commission representing Nate Campbell years ago in a change of decision and against Timothy Bradley. And as I was writing my response, I got Mr. Hedgepath's very lengthy written response. And I said, you know what? There's a point in here that that I could have articulated better. I mean, I frankly applaud Mr. Guy and his representatives because they're fighting their butts off to try to get this changed. But Mr. Foster can tell you I've been on both sides of this issue before and have taken my lumps before this commission, and well-deserved sometimes. And I cannot imagine being on the lighter side of an issue than this. I mean, I was concerned for my fighter's safety. I realize that Mr. Guy is an MMA fighter. I have deep respect for that sport. And I think one of the commissioners asked the question, well, if he's engaged in wrestling tactics and attempting MMA moves, does that negate whether or not there was a knockdown? I think that if you look at each and every video, anytime Mr. Union goes down in clips 1 through 6, it's in response to a wrestling tactic, and I applaud Mr. Hedgepath's restraint, because in our mind, he would have been in his right, to disqualify him. And, our reading of Section 368 of the California Administrative Code, I think is consistent with some of the views articulated by the Commission today, which is that there needs to be a rule violation. And I can't, fathom what the rule violation is or why something. I mean, Mr. Hedgepath has to be given some deference here. He's the one that's in the ring. He's the one that is making judgment calls, and I know that there is latitude in the rules for him to make those judgment calls. Even if you slow these clips down, I was listening as best I could. It was difficult to hear Mr. Guy advocating on his own behalf, but I mean, some of the times, at least 2 out of the 3 times that Mr. Union goes down, I think were clear fouls, and he was using wrestling techniques to try to get him down and try to attempt to make it look like a knockdown. And the other one, there's no punch landed. That's in the last video. So I would please encourage the Commission to take a look at the written statements that were submitted in an April letter to the Executive Director, Mr. Foster, in which he very succinctly articulates every point that we would simply second. We agree with them wholeheartedly, and I think that Mr. Union's performance in the ring, it was a close fight. I think it was made close by Mr. Guy's excessive fouls and wrestling tactics, but I don't even think this comes close, frankly, to a situation where we would change the decision. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right. Let's see if the commissioners have questions for you, Mr. Dubin. Thank you.
Yes,
anybody?
This is Lito Dubin from Rock Nation, Mr. Union's promoter. I'd also like to make a brief statement, if it's okay with everyone.
Sure, go ahead.
Look, I appreciate everybody's time, and I echo everything Josh Dubin said on behalf of Jerry Union and on behalf of him as his promoter. And I just want to say I've worked with the California Commission for over 30 years on many occasions, and have the greatest respect for you. And I have great respect for Mr. Guy as a combat athlete. I think the most important part, and echoing what Josh said, is that the statement by Mr. Hedgepath is one of the best referees, not only in California, but in the entire country. Says it all. I mean, first of all, there's no rule violation. Things like this are subject to the referee's competent interpretation. And I think he's made it clear what his interpretation was, and maybe so. I mean, not just because it's our fighter, but it was a very rough physical fight. And Mr. Guy, with all due respect, was using a lot of physical tactics that certainly weren't clean punches. And to even consider changing that far. So, I mean, to even consider a request to change the decision, it really wouldn't be fair to you know, boxing Justice or Mr. Union, who, you know, fought his ass off that night. And, you know, I would just like to hopefully, you know, put closure to this so both guys can get on with their careers in a productive way. And
All right.
I appreciate your
That's great.
consideration.
Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Dubin or Mr. Prince? No questions for Mr. Yano's representatives then. Well, Mr. Foster, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, I have the score, if that would be helpful to the commissioners.
Would you like the score?
Sure, I
Yes.
thought you were going to.
76-75 on Eddie Hernandez and Carla Caice's card. 78-73 on Rudy Barragun's card. All in favor of Mr. Young.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to add where my thoughts are, I'm happy to do so.
This is your opportunity to do so, sir. Please.
Sir, as executive officer, as you pointed out in your opening statements, I signed all the officials. I signed Mr. Hedgepath to this event. Mr. Hedgepath is a trained referee. The referee that I signed, that's licensed by this body, made a ruling. He's reviewed the tape. He stands by that ruling. I, as the executive officer, have looked at the tape, and, you know, while there's some degree of discretion when you're looking at a tape and you're looking at things, I certainly don't think that 2 of the 3 of those things even rise to anywhere near what would be considered a knockdown. Nowhere near a knockdown. Now, the other one, I don't see. I mean, we don't call standing 8 counts in pro boxing. Okay, we don't, and I don't think that was enough to say that the ropes was holding him up. That was my opinion. I've watched this thing a lot of times. So, you know, I have to give deference. I very much like Mr. Guy, but I like Mr. Yonan also. So my personal opinions are irrelevant. I think Mr. Hedgepath, I have to go with what my referee did inside the ring. Not only is he agreeing with what he did inside the ring, he's reviewed it and provided an analysis. He's our licensed referee. This is a referee discretionary call.
Okay. So we'll have an opportunity for commissioners to make their comments, but I need a motion. The agenda item of the request is to change the decision for Michael Guy versus Junior Young. Do we have a motion from one of the commissioners to change the decision? Make a motion? Please do.
I make a motion to change it to a draw.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair Lehman to change the decision to a draw. We need a second. We have a second from Commissioner Martha Shanakidis. Okay, now we have a motion we can discuss. Commissioner Sauer?
I think Mr. Guy has a credible case. I'm not convinced it's a compelling case. And in those circumstances, I would stay with the judgment of our referee.
Commissioner Isle?
I would agree with Mr. Slaughter's statement, and as well as the fact that there's a referee in there that not only was in there, but has reviewed it since then and stands by his opinion at the time. So I think for me it's pretty clear.
Commissioner Farson?
Well, I agree also. The thing is, you know, we have a lot of these kind of things. I've been doing this for many years. And it's called credibility of our referees. And sometimes commissions, and I've been on commissions that
Thank you, sir.
don't take the judgment of sometimes the referees. And I think we're on dangerous ground when we go and change things. It takes away the credibility. I guess I'm from the old school, like, for instance, some of you don't understand a little bit about baseball. This business is calling in New York and giving them a decision whether the guy was safe or not. Baseball went hundreds of years doing what the referees say and umpires. And it's almost like it looks like we're going into that type of thing where we have to have the television, things like that, what the legal system is. So I agree with you.
As we go down the table, I agree with the commissioners before me. Commissioner Lehman, do you want to add any more comments to your motion? Yeah, we're coming to you. I'm coming down the table. Commissioner Lehman, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is Vice Chair Mary Lehman. I agree that we need to defer to our referees. I mean, they're in the ring, and Mr. Hedgebeck is an incredible referee with lots of experience and boxing Hall of Fame too. Yes, but we all know that you can't see everything. It's just physically impossible. And then our job as a commission is precisely to review things. If we always defer to the well-reasoned and experienced discretion of our referees, and there would be no sense for review. So although I agree that reviews and changes should not be taken lightly, that is an important but difficult position that we are in, and I accept that difficult position. And looking at this fight, I would see 2 knockdowns. I think one's pretty clear in my mind. I think round 7, yeah. And I think that merits changing it to a draw with this case. That's my position.
Dr. Williams.
Sure. My opinion is in keeping with some of the earlier opinions. I think in the absence of some clear and obvious and compelling mistake, we need to rely and trust the referee who was in there and made an assessment in real time. And even when you go back and look at the video, it's not clear and obvious that his assessment was inaccurate or wrong. He's provided us with a detailed account of the rationale for his assessment. And if we were considering a revision based on an omission, which is at the heart of this, we can also say, well, we omitted the potential disqualification of him being struck while down. So, and that could result in another reassessment, which would get us right back to where we are right now. So my opinion is that we shouldn't reverse or change this decision. And I applaud you for providing us with the evidence and your opinion of things. But I think we've got to set a really, really high bar if we're going to change. And in this particular case, if we change this based on omission, there's other evidence to suggest that it would come out the same way if we included all omissions.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Commissioner Cherukidis.
I reviewed the videotapes a lot, and this is what I think. 2 of the videotapes show a slip that where guy could have been penalized, should have at least been warned for throwing punches while Yunin was grounded. 2 of the videos show a sequence where there was no knockdown, there was wrestling. And 2 of the videos show a sequence where there was a knockdown. Yunin got hit with a left hook. He tried to grab on, and guy continued he tried to grab on, but Yunin fell, and he fell from the punch or exhaustion, but either way, should have been scored a knockdown. And the problem is, yes, this is in real time, and yes, the referee makes a judgment, but not every referee is going to be perfect in every instance. And under ideal situation, perfect situation, we would have an evaluation process that takes it away from a public meeting, a commission meeting. We don't have an evaluation process. We don't have an evaluator like we used to. And absent that, what you are saying is that when a referee makes a mistake, there is no place for them to go. And you have to remember that boxers, this is how they make a living. We're infecting their record. We're affecting their ability to make a living. And in boxing, they can go from a $10,000 payday to a $100,000 payday in one fight. So effectively what you're saying is, despite the fact that a referee may have made a mistake, we are not going to step in and we're not going to do our jobs. We're not going to help them because we just don't want to be the arbiters of something that happened, even if the referee made a mistake. I don't think that's right, because it's our job to protect not just the health and safety of the boxer, physically, mentally, emotionally, but also their financial well-being. So until we have set up an evaluation process that can protect them outside of the confines of a commission meeting, it's our job to review these things. And having said that, I think that two of the sequences do show a knockdown. And we may not want to do this in public. I agree that this is not the best way to do it, but I think it is our job to review it, and if we believe there was a knockdown, to make the right decision, as hard as that might be.
Thank you. Okay, members of the public, we have a motion to change the decision to a draw. You are welcome now to come up and introduce yourself and make comments about that. Come on up. Please state your name.
Hi, I'm Zina Ponce. Actually, I was at the bout at the Queen Mary. I've actually known Junior Union for quite some time, and I knew a couple of people in Mike Guy's corner. Bernie Valenzuela was in the corner, and it was a wrestling match. From the moment it started to the moment it ended, and I thought they were both going to get disqualified. I actually am a referee for USA Boxing, and I thought the referee did a great job. He scolded both of them strongly, and I don't think there was a mistake done by the referee. So I think to put it on the referee is not the right situation here. I think it was on the boxers to provide proof that they were winning, and neither one could do that. So I think the referee did a great job that day.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to comment? Okay, we have a motion to change the decision to a draw. We call the roll. Yes means change it. No means do not change it.
I'm sorry. No means not to change it. Thank you.
Chairman Carvelli.
No.
Vice Chairman Lehman.
Yes.
Commissioner Frierson.
No.
Commissioner Senior Quidez.
Aye.
Commissioner Sauer.
No.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams.
No.
Commissioner Ayala.
No.
The motion to change decision fails 5-0.
Okay. Do we need to do anything further?
The decision stands as Junior Yonan is the winner. The vote is 5-2.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to sign off. We appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you. Appreciate it from everyone. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Guy, I hope that you feel like that you've got all the consideration that you could have and gave it a lot of time and effort and thought, and we appreciate your coming.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a rematch. Not the rematch. He won't rematch me.
Can I just make a few comments?
Of course.
Specifically to Mr. Peters' comments. While I think I appreciate her bringing up that there may be an opportunity here for us to establish a process that is more staff-driven as opposed to making the decision for an appeal here at the commission level. Because, we don't necessarily have all of the expertise, and it would be great to be able to at least filter that through some kind of a process. So I agree with that on her. It may be something to discuss or to maybe have a subcommittee here to work on. You'll have to replay the video. But so Mr. Martinez, what I said is I agreed with you on your first point about perhaps establishing some kind of process that's staff-driven, as opposed to making the decision here at the commission level. What I disagree on is your second point about the assumption that the referee had made a mistake. I think in our statements we all, well, at least speaking for myself, I was not just deferring to the referee based on his review of the video and all that, but we actually reviewed the video here ourselves and saw no substantial evidence that it should be overturned. So that's what my basis for my statement and my position was. So I just want to clarify that for the record. As Dr. Williams mentioned at the end there, he was very articulate about it. It's not it wasn't just that we have a referee that reviewed it. It was also the evidence that was presented here before us today. And I understand that she reviewed the video on her own, substantially what have you, but I think the opportunity is to review the videos and all of the evidence here today. So that's my understanding of the process. In any case, I just wanted to make those statements for the record.
I cannot hear what you're saying.
Well, we're not going to be able to keep repeating. She can look at the record. We're not going to take any actions right now, although Commissioner Ayala made a request to perhaps form a subcommittee or look into an evaluation process that might be more efficient. And so, Andy, would you think about that and perhaps at our next meeting report to us on what processes are in place or what things that perhaps we could do better or you could provide, or if we need a subcommittee and how that could work or what that subcommittee would do before we just form one.
I'll report back
What's in there?
in San Diego.
Just clarification, is
Yes.
this a subcommittee to administratively filter appeals, or is this a subcommittee? I thought what Martha was talking about is to assess our referee.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to form a subcommittee at this meeting. I want maybe Andy to ask questions, give us some feedback on just your questions, how this could look.
So may I clarify? So what I would suggest is that Andy reaches out to Mr. Rivas and others that are interested in chiming in and then formulating or making a recommendation as to an appropriate process moving forward, including everybody out here. So I'm not trying to define what the process should be. I'm just trying to establish, sort of get the ball rolling, if you will, for our CEO here to get advice from the rest of the commissioners as to what might be the appropriate process.
Sure. Maybe if you use the microphone a little closer. Now, I just.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're the chair.
Okay, that's okay. You asked to make comment and we're done. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 5.
Chairman, can I just ask a question related to, I was a bit surprised, and correct me, that after we had gone through this process, watching the tape, hearing from the individuals, and were preparing to cast our votes, and no disrespect to the person, that someone was invited to come down and render an opinion out of the audience. I mean, it's
public comment, right? It's a motion.
on this kind of a matter.
Sure. It's a public agenda.
So be it.
The public has the right to comment, right? Provide input. Mr. Hedgepeth, we're done. We're going to move on to agenda item number 5. This is a review and approval of an application for referee judge license from Ray Corona. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, on March 29th of 2017, of last year, There was an incident at the California Golden Gloves under 3 qualifier in Los Angeles. I reviewed a lot of them. It was a USA Boxing sanctioned event. I reviewed materials, I reviewed videos, multiple videos, and I used my authority as your executive officer, and I issued a suspension letter and suspended Mr. Corona's license as a referee for the balance. Okay? Now, if you look at the letter that was sent, the incident happened on March the 29th. I didn't issue the letter until May the 30th. Okay? That's important because during that time, I was reviewing and assessing and waiting and getting all the facts before I proceeded. I wanted to make sure we had all the bases covered. I was certainly working with the staff council of the department. And Mr. Corona got counsel, and certainly as your executive officer, I got counsel, and Ms. Lordakis represented me, and I went ahead and issued this. I had an assumption that Mr. Corona was going to appeal this. He chose not to appeal, and you know, he set out for 1 year of his career, pretty much. I'm here today. My recommendation is for this commission to give him a temporary license. I've got assignments for him. I'd like to get him assigned back to working as a referee. And let him get his stuff with USA Boxing sorted out. And if need be, he can return to the commission in time. But as you all know, refereeing is a diminishable skill. He's lost 1 year of work as a professional referee. But of course, we had him working up until the very end. I mean, near the very end before I issued this, till I got all the facts. But he's lost basically 1 year. To me, that seems like that's a significant punishment. It was, in fact, the maximum that I, as your executive officer, could do. If we wanted to do more, it would have to come from this body and not from me. Okay? So I'm here. I talked with Mr. Corona. You'll hear from Mr. Corona yourself. I feel confident in Mr. Corona's ability to referee fights. I'd like to get him back working, and he's been punished, at least from the maximum I can give.
Commissioners, if it's okay, unless you have an objection, I'd like to invite Mr. Corona to say whatever he has to say before we start the motion and the decision. Please speak up. Answer nice.
My name is Ray Corona. I just first want to say thank you for hearing me out. I just want to say thank you for hearing me out. First of all, I just want to say I'm sorry this incident happened. I apologize to California if I embarrassed them, which I know I did. My fellow officials, Mr. Foster is treating me well, the commission is treating me well. I made a bad decision that day, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart. I apologize. I apologize to USA Boxing. I wish it would have never happened. I just wish, I hope you guys are giving back my license and we can move forward. I've learned from this. And again, I just, from the bottom of my heart, I didn't want this to happen. It was just a quick decision I made. I dropped the ball.
Mr. Corona, would you introduce the gentleman next to you, please?
Hello, Torino.
Okay, if he doesn't have to say anything, he's welcome to.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Will Trevino Perez. I am the attorney, and I just would, first of all, thank the commission, the chair, executive director, for giving us the opportunity. My client had every right to file an appeal, and he actually taught me a lesson. He said, no, I need to face the commission and take my punishment, but I am remorseful. I've seen a change in him over the year that I've met him. He's a churchgoer. more so than he ever was, very positive, and he really reflects back on this as something that he wishes to take back. Would love to demonstrate that he's more than that single incident. He has a 21-year career as a referee, and I think the totality of the circumstance should be looked at and not just a single day. So more than his attorney, I've become his friend, and I think it's very important that you do hear him out, ask him whatever questions. He's ready to talk to you. Thank you.
Why don't we start with Commissioner's questions? And we can start with Commissioner Shedder Hughes. We'll start with you this time. Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Mike.
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Ray, are you still appealing the USA Boxing?
Yeah, yes, you are. So the question is Ray appealing the U.S. Boxing decision, or and you can then probably should explain what the USA Boxing situation is.
Can my turn to speak?
No, would you please answer the question?
I was suspended for 10 years. And again, I called Mike Manning, and I left him numerous messages. I apologize. McEntee, I'm sorry. And I apologize, yes.
I can't hear what they're saying.
I said I left a message with USA Boxing, Mike McEntee, and I apologized numerous times. They haven't got back to me, so that's why I got the attorney. But I was suspended for 10 years.
Is there an appeal process? And is it underway?
Yes. Yes.
It's underway.
Yes.
And we have folks from USA Boxing here that can tell us about that IC. Commissioners, if you'd like to hear about that, I think I would. Martha, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I would really like to know, I know you said that you're sorry and you're very remorseful, but what exactly are you sorry and remorseful for?
So the question to you is, I'm going to help with the audio here, is what exactly are you sorry and remorseful about?
Well, looking back, right when the incident happened, I knew it was a bad move on my part. It's not necessarily an excuse. I'm just telling you from the heart what I'm saying. I got afraid for my son. I have 7 children that me and my wife have raised them all. They've all turned out good kids, military, police officers. That's my baby. He's my 17-year-old son. He was fighting a 24-year-old man. 23, I'm sorry. And when he was getting attacked, I got afraid for him. I made the wrong move by fighting. I should have. Now looking back, I should have huddled him and took the beating. What would have happened to that? I don't know. But that's what I should have done. And that's what I regret. I got afraid and I made the wrong call. That was my child. Mind you, that's my child, my youngest child. And that's what I'm sorry that it all happened. Everybody tried to help. It just went all bad. But I'm sorry that it happened. What did I learn from it? To think that much more. I mean.
Wait, you're sorry that it happened.
And I'm sorry that I made that choice. I forget that I went into fight mode for my child. I'm sorry that I went into fight mode for my child. I should have huddled him and just took the whooping.
You should have taken the whipping.
Yes, or both of us, because we're all getting jumped. It was 25 against 4, but you know what? By fighting back, it just made the thing worse. And excuse me, I forget your last name, but Martha, if you could see me, look at me. I've aged in a year, and this has humbled me big time. This what I'm saying. It's like the cliche. You don't know what you lost until you lost it. I lost it. I love refereeing. I wouldn't wish this on nobody. And you know what? It brought me down to my knees. It brought me down to my knees. If I could change it today, I'd do anything to change it.
Martha, do you have more other questions?
So, Ray, is your position that you went into that situation as a victim to take a beating for your son? sorry for having gone in there. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't really understand. Martha, what was that?
So I'm trying to figure because my understanding is that what Ray is saying is he's sorry for having gone in there to take a beating for.
What I meant, Martha, is I'm sorry that I went in there to fight for my child. I should have went in there and huddled him, and maybe the referee, Delilah, could have stopped him then. But I went in there, and when they were attacking him, I went on defense mode, and it was wrong move. I could have huddled him, but by going in there to defend my child while he was getting attacked, it just put gasoline to a fire. But I'm sorry that it even started. I'm sorry that.
Okay, I think you've answered the question. Martha, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Williams? No, okay. Vice Chair?
Well, I would, this is Mary Lane, Vice Chair. The recommendation from you in the memo, Mr. Foster, is to grant a temporary license to Mr. Corona pending USA Boxing's investigation and disciplinary action. So, do we have USA Boxing's investigation?
We have,
is it time?
We certainly have the investigation, the initial one. Anytime when you go through an appeal, sometimes new things can come out. I'm waiting for I'm just going to say it publicly. 10 years is a long time. And so until we can get a final outcome, final resolution, I've never heard as a regulator of a 10-year suspension ever that I know of. Maybe a revocation, I've heard of that. But until this gets resolved, obviously he's not going to be working with USA Boxing. I've gave him the maximum that I can give him as the executive officer. And now he's back with us.
Yeah, well, my concern is that we're asked to make a decision based on facts that we don't know.
Yeah. May I make a comment?
Hold on. Everyone's going to get a chance. Do we want to hear from USA Boxing in the appeal process to get some background? Would you come on up? Let's get some more background. Help put this in context.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike McAtee with USA Boxing.
Mike, please speak up.
Just move the mic.
Yeah, how many times do we have to ask you guys? Speak up, please.
Sorry about that. The appeals process with USA Boxing, I'd like to provide just a real quick timeline, and maybe that will help. The disciplinary letter after our investigation was given to Mr. Corona on May 25th. The incident occurred on March 29th. At that time, he was given until June 7th to decide if he's going to accept the sanctions or discipline against him. He chose, and under the Ted Stevens Sports Act, he has the right to appeal. Mr. Corona then contacted our office and started the appeals process. The letter was sent to him for that on May 30th. He said he wanted a hearing. He contacted us with a letter from his attorney on June 29th. This is on 2017. His attorney, Mr. Carino Perez, requested that the process information documents studies were provided. He was given a hearing date. A notice was sent out on August 23rd. Mr. Corona's attorney chose September 13th, 2017 for his client's hearing. We noticed all of our judicial board. On September 8, 2017, Mr. Perez telephoned and said that he was injured and needed to be continued, which was granted. On September 11th, USA Boxing, Lynette Smith, our director of membership, contacted Mr. Perez again and asked about a continuance. And then we did not hear anything back from Mr. Perez. On October 10, 2017, Mr. Perez said that he was recuperating from the earlier accident and wanted another hearing rescheduled. We then attempted to contact him on October 12, 2017, and to date, we have not received any communication from Mr. Corona or Mr. Perez regarding the appeal.
May I address on that point?
Yeah.
The record slightly misstated. As far as I requesting the information, that took 3 letters to get cooperation and finally get the packet. As far as my injuries, having to reschedule a hearing, that is true. I've sustained significant injuries and it took a while. However, I have had unanswered phone calls and letters to Ms. Smith.
Mr. President, hang on one second. We're not going to hear the dispute between you and USA Boxing. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to decide about reinstating Mr. Corona. Yes. We are trying to get some background. Is it a fact that you did not or are not now in an appeal process with USA Boxing? What's your position on that?
We are still very much interested in the appeal, and I'm very interested in getting a response for an appeal date, hearing date.
But that was last October.
No, that is not correct. No,
Mr. McAtee?
That's the discrepancy.
Okay.
I spoke to Lynette Smith, our director of membership, and who's in charge of that to clarify up until yesterday, and she says that is incorrect.
Okay. So I'm not going to spend our time on the dispute between the both of you. Although right now, I guess for our purposes, there's no hearing date set for an appeal.
That is correct.
Okay, that is correct. Commissioners, let's keep going on questions. Commissioner Thorson, do you have some?
Yes, I do.
Mr. McAtee, can you hang out, please? Thank you, sir.
I have to go back all the way to 1950. And we're talking about, the reason why I'm bringing 1950s, because we're talking about forgiveness. Some of you here have heard this story. And a boxer from France came over here named Ray Fabersham. He passed on a long time ago. And he came over to fight somebody named Willie Pett. Some of you might have read about it or heard about it. He was a champion. In those days, they didn't have commissions. I'll put it this way, I won't say gangsters, but other people used to run boxing. Like, for instance, his name, Blinky Palermo, ran boxing. So my father told me I could go and spar with this Ray Fabersham because I'm southpaw, left-handed. And in those days, boxers didn't know how to fight left-handed people, so they picked me up. He made me angry, and I can understand anger. Talking about. He made me angry because he popped me real good, and I knocked him down. Now this is a fight that's going to be a Madison Square Garden. So Blinky Palermo and his people took all those the days when they took pictures after they seat, took them all away, and my father apologized to them because that was dangerous, and they forgave me. I'm just giving about forgiveness. What you did, what he did, what he, young fella did, was wrong. He admits he's wrong, and I'm in the seat now that I can say we forgive, and I forgive, and I hope that things turn out for you. I think 1 year is long enough, really long enough. That's why so many of us in the African American community really get upset about it. Years ago when they had
rock cocaine. And the brown American, black American get 5 and 10 years for that kind of nonsense. And we're talking about justice, really, and that's what I'm talking about. So my recommendation is what my executive officer is talking about, is one long enough.
Commissioner Ayala?
So I realize that this may have been communicated to us in the past because you mentioned an incident that happened in March 29th of 17. But I think moving forward, we're going to continue doing these kinds of fact findings. I mean, I didn't have a clue as to what the incident actually was until we started talking about it here. So it'd be great to have that in the memo, or at least a phone call or a conversation as to what the issue is, because obviously the facts do play an important role in making decisions like this. Mr. Perot is saying one thing, but it'd be nice to hear the other perspective. I don't know if he happened to be there officiating that day or not, and this incident happened. I don't know any of those facts. At least I don't remember ever seeing that. It seems like some of the commissioners here do know that for whatever reason or another, but if we put it in a public memo here, it'd be great for everybody to have the same information. That's first point. The second thing is just in terms of it seems that there's two different suspensions. There's a USA Boxing letter, which is 10 years as a proposed suspension, what have you, and then there's a California 11-month suspension. Can you clarify the two differences? Are you recommending that he only be granted a license and we're only permitted to allow him to referee in California? Or how does that impact the USA Boxing process? It'd be good to understand that process as well. For those of us that are not experts in boxing or mixed martial arts.
He could only officiate California State Athletic Commission sanctioned bouts or bouts that he was taking overseas, like in a different country. His license would be a temporary license, so like he wouldn't be. I don't believe Mr. Combs currently licensed in Nevada or Arizona. He couldn't go to Arizona or Nevada and work. He could work in California only until this is resolved and get it fixed. But this is his home base anyway. So this is mainly where he works. He cannot work for USA Boxing.
So it's temporary. Also only for USA Boxing as the organization doesn't mean that he can't officiate within other organizations around the country. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with other.
Excuse me.
Well, you can, Commissioner Flores, and let them.
I know. I just said I don't understand.
Let them finish their exchange, please.
I'm not familiar, sir, with another group that regulates amateur boxing other than USA. I mean, obviously there's unsanctioned.
Let me phrase the question differently. So, if the ruling went against him, he basically wouldn't be able to officiate in the United States or the nation for 10 years. For boxing, any kind of boxing. Is that correct?
Well, that for amateur boxing, certainly that would be correct. And if the ruling went against him today, he wouldn't be allowed to do professional boxing in California until this body decides to give him a license.
I understood that. I think the point I'm making here, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, is that it'd be great to get more background in the memorandums here because, again, not everybody is privy to the same information. And if we're going to make fair decisions about any kind of appeals, it would be outstanding to have that additional information or communication as to all the fine details about the case. Because here, what we've done, in my opinion, is we've kind of backtracked in terms of figuring out the facts as we go. I think, as at least one of the commissioners mentioned earlier, can we figure out what the facts are before we move on what it is we're trying to decide? And so, that's all I'm asking for is, just in this, again, if we could clarify in terms of the facts, was he officiating the day that this incident happened? Was he just in the crowd? See, everybody seems to know except for me.
Sir, go ahead, hold on.
Yeah, those are my questions.
No, I wasn't officiating. This is amateur boxing, not professional. My son was fighting in the Golden Days, turning amateur. And I was his opponent. And
you ask her to wait, please.
And the fight went well. In the last round, the bell rang. They were in exchange. From my point of view, my son went to make a gesture to punch. And in the heat of the moment, the referee Delilah got between them, and the 23-year-old man reached over and hit my son. This is after the bell rang, the last round of the bell. When my son went back across the ring, he did gesture like effing. And the referee couldn't go back to this 23-year-old man, and he came to attack my son. So we ran across the room, attacked him. As you see in the video, and this is what I encourage you to look at. Go on YouTube, Golden Loves Riot. It's all there. Nobody can lie. I'm walking up the step. I'm not running. I'm walking up the step. Somebody stopped this guy. When I seen 3 other guys jumping in from the other side, I got afraid, so I went in. And yes, a full-fledged riot. It was 25 of them against 4 or 5 of us. Thank God it didn't,
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Sauer?
I agree with my colleague. I would have appreciated knowing far more about this than we did when it began. I am just astounded at a 10-year penalty. I mean, my goodness. It just strikes me as something that's, it sounds like something out of a criminal court instead of this kind of activity, and particularly when there was that unusual, you are correctly portraying what happened. I just find it just shocking. My attitude is I'm deferring on this to our executive director. And if his feeling is that you should be authorized to referee in this state, we should do that.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, I didn't get a chance to make my comments here, but go ahead, please. Everyone's going to get a turn. I don't know what everyone's in a hurry for, but go ahead.
I would like if there's somebody there from USA Boxing who was present that day. I think they should get a chance to say something because so far we've only heard from one side.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, this is not necessarily a John Jones hearing. It's not at all, okay? This is a recommendation for us to consider to reinstate Mr. Corona. We're going to stick to our business. I have a background question for you, gentlemen. Without getting into why you're disputing dates, it doesn't matter to me or to us. Are you going to appeal with USA Boxing? Are you going to ask for a date and appeal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you going to do that soon?
That's on my turn.
Okay. Andy, why are you linking what happens with USA Boxing to your recommendation? Clarify that because that is not clear to me and probably to a lot of folks, I presume.
Thank you, sir. And there's sometimes additional facts that get brought out when other arbitrators, when other people look at certain circumstances. I certainly appreciate, sir, Commissioner Aiello's point as to he would have liked to have been provided more information, and we certainly are prepared to show the video, but what we worked out in advance is we thought, as last year, that this was going to be an appeals hearing, and all that stuff was going to. Mr. Corona chose not to appeal. He just took the suspension and moved on. It's my understanding, you tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Corona, Mr. Perez, but it's my understanding they didn't want this to become that. This is not the venue for it.
So this is not an appeal hearing?
It is not an appeals hearing, sir.
I hope everyone's clear about it. Okay.
And I've issued a suspension.
Yes.
And I have tied it with the final outcome because it is difficult for me as the executive officer, as I see these things happen all the time, that 10 years is going to stand. It's hard for me to believe that. I've never saw a 10-year suspension before. I saw revocation. I never saw a 10-year suspension. 10-year suspension might as well retire Mr. Corona from referee. He's been punished. He's been out for 1 year. That's as much legally as I can do. You guys could do more, but he didn't appeal.
Thank you. So, a couple questions for you, Ray. So you're apologizing for, and I heard you clearly when you were responding to this question, you're getting involved in violence.
Yes.
You're clear that that was what the mistake was, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because it doesn't necessarily, it's not for us to render judgments or opinions on whether or not you allow a 17-year-old to fight a 23-year-old or any of that stuff. This is all about what Ray Corona did that day.
Yes, I take full responsibility.
Okay. And you are not trying in any way to defend it. I haven't heard you.
I'm not. That's why I didn't appeal it. I accept my punishment again. I'm sorry to USA Boxing.
Okay. You know, it's okay. You made that clear. I just want to, again, clarify that at the end of this conversation. So we've been giving all the commissioners here a chance to ask questions and make comments. I would like a motion so we can invite members of the public and final comments. So I need a motion on a recommendation to grant the temporary referee judge license to Mr. Ray Corona, pending USA Boxing's investigation and final disciplinary action, at which time the commission may determine appropriate action. So moved. We have a motion from Dr. Woods. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second, Commissioner Fryer. We can let's invite now members of the public to make any comments on this motion to grant the temporary license. Who would like to come before the commission and make comment? Mr. McAtee.
Commissioners, I'll be brief. Just to name up for the clarification part, on the date that this incident occurred, Mr. Corona was a level 1 boxing coach registered. He was not acting in the capacity of an official. So he was not, at that day, acting in the capacity of an official. He was a coach. Regarding the process by which we are following and the determination of his suspension, I don't think this is the appropriate venue to hear evidence, because I believe that needs to be done by our judicial committee if and when Mr. Corona does move forward with his appeal.
Thank you very much. Other members of the public who would like to comment, please come forward. State your name.
So my name is Silaka Ponce, and I was a referee in the ring. And unfortunately, for those of you who have not heard all the facts, that is his opinion of what happened. And the one thing that I'm not okay with is that he sat up here twice and apologized to everybody but the referee. He called USA Boxing, and he called you, and he apologized to you, but not one time has he apologized to me. Because both opponents had gloves, and I didn't. It was my face that was completely bruised and swollen, the 2 black eyes, Not once. And all the messages that he left me, and all the postings that he put up, he allowed his friends to crucify me for months on social media. He blamed everything on me. Not once did he say I was wrong for jumping in. He's an embarrassment for the officials that represent the state. I don't come to the pros and embarrass him. He went into my yard, jumped in. He also forgets to mention that it was the opponent who hit me, not Adrian. But it was me who sheltered him. It was his wife who took him out of I had him. You didn't jump in to protect Adrian. You jumped in to hit his opponent. I held Adrian until his mother pulled him from under the ropes. At that point, I let him go. Adrian was crying because you were getting beat up. That's true. It was many against one. But he never jumped in to save Adrian. He jumped in to hit his opponent because I had Adrian the whole time. And his mom and her friends pulled him from under the ropes. He went on weeks and weeks. He left me several messages. He left me several text messages. Not once did he apologize. Not once did he admit he was wrong. So that is why 10 years, because he put me in danger. None of those kids were injured. They were both on their feet. Nobody went down. Yes, it was a last minute, combination. Adrian wasn't wrong. That wasn't the issue. Yes, the opponent got upset. But before the opponent could reach him, he jumped in. His opponent hit me, never hit Adrian. Adrian pulled away. And USA Boxing, and I submitted all the pictures, it was my face that proved otherwise.
Thank you. Other members of the public?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Sanders, president of USA Boxing Southern California Association. I've been involved in amateur boxing probably, since the mid-70s. Had the good fortune of knowing Ray Carone when we first came into boxing through the amateur program as one of our officials, and did a fine job, moved on to the professional ranks. I have nothing but respect for his work and what he's done and what he handled himself. I was not in the room at the Golden Glove. I was in the back. I had a box of boxing in the Golden Glove last year when this incident took place. My treasurer came in and told me there was a riot in the gym at the Golden Gloves. I've been going to the Golden Gloves. Matter of fact, 30 years ago, I had a Golden Glove national champion ended up in the Olympic trials against Roy Jones. I've gone to the Golden Gloves a lot and been participating locally every year. Never and been involved in amateur boxing all these years. We've had people get in arguments, get into profanity rants, but never have I seen anything like that was reported to me and what I saw on tape. It's embarrassing as an adult. I've coached all the way to the Olympic Games and World Championships. Coaches don't get in the ring. If you get in, the protocol is you're on the outside of the ring. You take the gloves off, your headgear, and help the boxers move through the process. When a coach gets in the ring, that's generally professional level. We don't do that. And what happened last year, the coach went in the ring. I had reports from all of my officials who were at ringside, from the treasurer, our treasurer, Mr. Jones, who's done a fantastic job over the years and as an official and as a treasurer. Basically, what we had, in his word, was a race riot. I worked in the juvenile justice system. I've seen a lot of those. People get hurt. There are people serving time in San Quentin today for stuff like that on the streets. And I know that you guys have your system, the way you operate, and I respect that. But I think we had a picture painted here today that doesn't really give the facts about what really happened. And the interesting thing, as a citizen here in California, I'm sitting out there and questions are being asked, and those of us who were there, nobody's asking us. We gave our stuff to USA Boxing, but it would have been a great thing to be able to come and report to the commission what happened, maybe had to get interviewed or something so that you could have the facts. Nobody should be able to behave in that fashion and walk away from it. Essentially, that's what's happening. I've worked for 30 years in the juvenile justice system. There were people there who were down on some humbug crimes, and they've done a lot of time. And someone suggests that, 10 years when you violate somebody, 10 years when we had kids. Our shows are family functions. We don't generally have police officers there. We've never had to have them. And we certainly don't expect one of our trained officials through USA Boxing, who ended up with the California State Athletic Commission as an official, a professional, to get in the ring and carry out the kind of charge that was carried out last year at that event. That's embarrassing to me as a Californian and an American. We just don't do that kind of stuff. We are role models for our kids. I'm a coach. I'm a clinician for USA Boxing coaches clinics, and I teach coaches, and I remind them of things like this. This is not acceptable from our standpoint. We have higher standards than that. 10 years, I know that you don't know our system, so yeah, it's shocking to you. But when people behave in certain ways, go to the California penal system and look at people in jail. You can look up and down the list and judge that some of them may not need to be there that long, but they're there because they committed a crime. And yeah, being sorry for your crime is one thing, but being sorry for how you handled yourself and how you dealt with people, maybe you should go back and apologize to all of them. That's not acceptable. And it happened on my watch. This is the first time and the only time I've had that happen. We've done many shows. We haven't had police officers present, haven't had to have it. Because it's a family show. We have little kids running around. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Zanders. Any other members of the public would like to make additional comment to the commission? Okay, seeing none other, here we go.
My name is Arlene Corona. Ray Corona is my wife. I'm sorry, it's my husband.
He's your husband.
I'm sorry, I did not prepare to
up.
speak today. I did not prepare to speak today, but hearing the comments, I felt that I had to speak because I was there. And from my understanding, we're here today to reinstate my husband's license for California boxing. I feel like it's the comments that were made are emotional comments, asking for, the referee is asking for a sorry. She's asking my husband to apologize for her losing control of the fight, which is what a job is of a referee in a ring. My husband apologizes for his actions. He wishes that the situation never occurred. He understands that the actions that he took, that they were frowned upon as far as the California State Athletic Commission goes, which is why he chose not to appeal. That's why we're here today. Let's keep it on what the focus is. It's here. He's here today, asking that you reinstate his license. He takes the he took the punishment. He totally regrets. Every night we talk about how he regrets that the night happened. That he wishes that it would have been that the outcome would have been different. Martha had just said, in another situation, she occurred that the referee does make mistakes. My husband was not a referee that day. He was not representing California, the State Athletic Commission. He was representing his son. He was acting as a father. But also, I also want you to know that acting as a father, he now sees that he should have acted different. We never know how to act in that moment. We never expect that moment to happen, but he does regret his actions. He wished he would have just shielded his son. And I think that's what we should focus on. Focus on that, you know what, he's regretful, that he's remorseful, that he apologizes that he was frowned upon by Athletic Commission. And I'm hoping that you guys will see that in him and that you guys will reinstate his license. That he knows that never again will that action, never again will he do that same mistake again. It's humbled him. He's given his apology to the commission because my understanding is that's why we're here today. I feel like me living with him, I've seen the changes in him. I've never known my husband. I've been married to this man for 21 years and never have I seen any violence in this man. Never, not once. I know him he serves in the community. We serve in the community. I am a first responder. I've been a registered nurse, and we are constantly working with the public. My husband volunteers 5 days a week at the boxing gym in our neighborhood. Parents continuously, they trust their kids in my husband's hands. I think our community does not feel my husband as a threat, and I feel that neither should the commission. So that I'm asking that you please see this punishment as a year and please reinstate his license. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other somebody for the commission? Okay. I have a motion and a second to accept the executive officer's recommendation. Any other commissioner comments that we haven't already kind of gone over? They want to add anything, again, that we haven't already covered? Commissioners, before we call for the vote.
Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify my recommendation. My recommendation is exactly as it says, but once USA Boxing's investigation, we get the final disciplinary action on the appeal, then I plan to present that to you, sir, as the chair, to see if you think we should put this on the agenda for additional review.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further comment, let's call for this vote. You want to, do you need any further clarification on the motion? Anybody, Mr. Walker, we good?
You're good.
Okay, let's call the vote.
Chairman Carvelli.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Lehman.
Yes.
Commissioner Fryerson.
Yes.
Commissioner Senior Quidez. Commissioner Senior Quidez. Sorry. Commissioner Senior Quidez, I'm sorry, I had your volume down. She has said a no.
Okay.
Commissioner Sauer.
Yes.
Commissioner and Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Aiello.
Yes.
Sir, the motion passes 6-1 to reinstate and give Mr. Corona a temporary license pending his.
Thank you. Excuse me, hang on a second. Oh, I don't know if we can we direct them to get this deal done? No, we don't think we can do it.
As much as we can, we're doing that.
We can stipulate to that. I'm going to speak with Mr. Mike McAtee today and hopefully work something out so that we can get that going forthwith.
Again, not our business, but you heard the comment that I hope you will take to heart. And this, Mr. and Mrs. Corona, the one thing that you said that I do want to maybe have you think about, Ray Corona does represent the California State Athletic Commission at all times.
I did say that. I'm sorry, did you not? I did.
You said the other, and it's okay. You were saying a lot of things and you're very emotional, but you want to correct the record, right? You know that he represents the commission as a state official at all times.
At all times,
Okay.
whether or not he's in a uniform, I do understand that.
We'll see you back in the ring. Work your stuff out, please. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for your time.
Commissioners, it's 11:45. We could take our lunch break now, and then we can finish up our agenda. Does anybody have any preference? Break now?
Martha, we're going to take a break.
Okay, we're going to break for what? We'll say 30 minutes?
Stop 30 minutes.
Less, 20?
30.
We'll stop you back.
Okay, 12:15. We will reconvene at 12:15. We're going to reconvene this afternoon session of our Tuesday, May 8th, 2018 California State Athletic Commission meeting. I'm going to go to agenda item number 9, Executive Officer's Report. We have representatives here from our delegated entities and we can get them up and on their way and complete our other business. Mr. Foster? Your report, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, the latest update that I have, the latest update that I have, sir, from the budget office is the fiscal month 8. That's the February 28th. Obviously, we're in fiscal month 11, so we're a little behind, but certainly better than the rest of the year when we get any of these reports.
Tell Martha to go on mute.
You saw my recent revenue update from my report of like $1,530,000. Okay, we have quite a bit of more revenue streams to come before the end of the fiscal year. If I'm guessing, somewhere between $1,700,000 and $1,800,000 in revenue. So the bottom line of this topic is that we're in good financial shape. Because we have it, I proceeded to use the budget bill language. The $100,000, I asked for an additional $100,000 of appropriation not that we're going to spend that money, but just simple appropriation. We have the budget language. I used it. Part of the rationale that I had, which I feel like is reasonable to ask for, is I didn't have a updated budget report at that time when I issued that request. And I didn't really know if we have it. I think it was prudent for me, if we have it, to go ahead and ask for it in the case that we didn't need it. Now that I've got a kind of an updated report, 8 months, I'm not sure we would have needed it, but it's never hurt to have. So, does anybody have any questions about the budget numbers? I'd certainly like to provide you more detail, but I just don't have the detail to provide.
Is this form our new form, or is this something that's created for us just until we get the new form?
In comparison to the old one that I would send you with the spreadsheet or whatever, yeah, they've not gotten to that yet. This is
interim.
It is, ma'am, and I very much like that old sheet because it very much lays out things much more clearly. You know, this has the encumbrances already built in, yeah, but I like the other sheet better to answer your question, and we will get to that. But I'm not trying to put more on the budget office. Is really working hard to figure out this fiscal system. Pension fund, $5,057,000 is the beginning balance, and the ending balance is $5,044,000. And we don't have at this time a neurological fund report, but I can assure you we'll get our appropriation. No problems there. This is the fiscal system. It's not spitting out reports as easy as the CalSTAR system is.
We had talked about before about working with James about reallocating our investments. Did that happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I had a meeting and we did that. Report on the proposed and pending regulations. Mr. Walker can probably give some insight to this. I got an email from him last week. I don't know what her official title is, but she's the second in command of the legal shop, the assistant director, I suppose. Her name's Marilyn. She had some comments. Can you speak to that?
Andy?
Yes, sir.
A little more clear and loud.
Yes, sir. We're on number 9.
I'm speaking to the mic.
We're on number 9. B, report on pending and proposed regulations.
Andy asked if there were any questions with regard to his budget update. Okay.
The department's assistant chief counsel reviewed the rulemaking package for the examination box of applicants, and she's requested that Andy or Sophia make some minor changes. And so once those changes are made, then it will move forward to the department's deputy director of legal affairs for review.
So we just got that back. I believe it was last week. It was last week we got that back, so we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have a positive outcome of this regulation package at the next meeting. Now we're here to our delegated entities. JT Steele from Camo is first.
Good afternoon, Chairman Carbone, Commissioners, Executive Officer Foster. Happy to report to you. We're having a great year at Camo. I took the liberty of including some injury bout result statistics in this report as I do from time to time, just to keep the commission appraised with the consistency of safety levels and the officiating of the CAMEL program. I think if you look at the ballot results, they are consistent, very consistent as they have been over years past. And I think the reason that is just because of the exceptional level of officials that we have in the state of California. We have a wonderful group of officials that make sure that fights are being stopped quickly and also not too late. And I think those statistics speak for themselves. They're very, very good statistics. Do you have any questions on those statistics?
I think in the future it'd be good to delete the people's names.
Generally those suspensions are public. If you'd like that, I can do that. Any ones that there were some suspensions removed that might have had some confidential information on them and so forth. I did remove some, so I did review them.
Okay. Yeah, so I think.
But I'm happy to take those off.
Yeah, I think IPF is doing a good job on their report now, so I think it'd be more helpful. So many bouts we had, so many suspensions for hard ballot, so many fractures, and then maybe information as to what the fracture is, possible fracture, was a skull fracture, was it a broken finger?
Okay.
That would be helpful. But I appreciate
however you want
that you've done this. And it's helpful to us. And unfortunately, IPF has really kind of stepped up their response to us, and so now everyone else has to follow.
And John does a similar summary.
Yes, too.
Happy to give you that summary. And those are important. It's good for you to understand the type of injuries, the type of results, the things that are prevalent in sports. They are different when you get to adults. There's certain types of things that are more prevalent than you probably see in the youth. Should be expected.
JT, I think what we're suggesting is we don't need to see their resume. We know that there was 25 cuts and 75 hyperextensions, and that's probably better.
And I appreciate the list of events I've already put on my calendar too.
Sure, I'd love to see any member of the commission out of the camera event. It's always great. Pleasure having you out.
You guys are going to be busy, looks like.
We do. We have got some kind of a new class of promoters that have started promoting, and they're actually doing very well right now. So we're very happy about that. California fighters have a tremendous opportunity to be able to fight. It's such a great thing because also here in California we have the ability to generate and cultivate talent for our officials. So that's the tremendous benefit that we have is these officials who are working in the amateurs are working consistently in a high volume of bouts, which might take an official in another state years and years to get that type of experience. They can do it in a year here. So, just a quick more update. Our online training is moving along. We're excited for that. I think that's really going to become groundbreaking for the organization to have that. And as a final update, our equipment. We have a great new system. Generally in the past, fighter equipment, gloves, and so forth was distributed at events. And it was just kind of, it just was not effective and efficient. It was effective, it wasn't an efficient mode of distribution of fighter equipment. We now have a new partner who's manufacturing the gloves and a distribution partner where the athletes I tested the system out for $3 shipping. They were at my house the next day. So California Logistics has us covered really well. So the fighter equipment, if they want it, they can get it at their house the next day. So it's wonderful. Any questions?
Thank you.
I have one.
Thank you very much.
Martha has one.
Martha has one.
Put her on the
It says no update on the financial
The speaker's in the back.
report. I don't remember actually seeing one for a little while.
Sure. If you'd like that, I can certainly have that for you. I will do that for you. I'll take care of that, no problem. You're welcome. Anything further?
Jeremy, Maggie, who's that? What are you doing? Well,
It's just turning the computer.
got it. Okay, no worries.
There's no way to
I know computers, but I thought
turn
somebody
it
was
off,
about to
right?
appear up there.
Turn it off for 2 hours.
I was.
Sort of Mount Rushmore.
Martha didn't get that. Okay. Next, we have Mike McAtee with us with USA Boxing. Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, I'd like to introduce quickly, for the record, obviously my name is Mike McAtee, Executive Director of USA Boxing. I'd like to introduce Mike Campbell. He is our Events and Boxing Operations Manager. I had Mike come out with me today. I know in the past we talked about making sure that somebody from the national office is here. So if I'm not here, you'll probably see Mike. So I wanted you all to have an opportunity to meet him. And he'll give a brief update about our events and what we're looking at for 19 and 20.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Real quickly, I know that we have a lot on the agenda. USA Boxing Review should have received our summary reports. Like all the amateur sports and even with professional boxing, the most important thing is the health and safety of our boxers. We're very excited with our LBCs that we had 2 reported injuries with over 1,600 bouts or 1,600 rounds in a bout. I wasn't very good in math, and so when I was looking at 0.12%, I was like, that seems awful high. But if you actually look at it not a percentage, it's 0.0012. So if you look at the decibels and not the percentage, so that's our goal. If we can have a combat sport that has no injuries consistently, I think we'll all feel better. We are moving forward. I can tell you that California boxers have represented the United States or USA Boxing over the first 3 quarters in international competitions and attended our in camps in Colorado. And then one of the things that I think is important, as we all, and I heard this earlier from you all, having well-trained officials, judges, and referees is important to our sport, just like it is in the other sport. We have implemented nationally, and as we're breaking it down, a ranking system of all our judges where we can compare them against round by round to every other judge that they're judging against. That gives us an ability to rank them when it comes to their scoring. And then they also have to now, with continuing education, take a 100-question test just to maintain. So we're constantly trying to improve that. We believe that identifying talented boxers and officials and coaches are all what we need for our organization to keep moving forward. I'm going to let Mike speak a little bit about what we're doing for the future of 19 and 20 and how we are partnering with California and the Boxing Commission here and our LBCs.
Thank you. My name is Michael Campbell. I'm the Events Manager and Operations Manager at USA Boxing. Thanks for welcoming me here today. I've watched quite a few of these on the web stream, so it's good to be here in person. Thank you for all.
I guess you have nothing else to do with yourself, huh?
Well, actually, I'm going to tell you about a few things we've got going on. Just returning back from Albuquerque, Western qualifier, and then headed to Continental Championships. So kind of fit into the travel scheme a little bit.
Thank you, Commission, for all the work you guys do. You guys set a precedent for the rest of the country, and also for us as well. Safety amongst our athletes is our focus, and so you guys provide great leadership. As I mentioned, March 4th through the 11th, we just returned from our Western Elite qualifier in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I want to report the totals there. We had 850 boxers registered. Of those, 155 were from California. So that's approximately 18.5%. Similar numbers with our coaches, 550 coaches and officials, with 100 of them from California. So that's also 18.5%, pretty consistent with the Western qualifier. We are busy right now looking at our 2019 and 2020 calendars. I just returned from the National Association of Sports Commission and spoke to at least 5 communities within California, to the CBDs, hotels, Sacramento, San Jose, Tri-Valley, Ontario, and San Diego. We're looking to fill our Western qualifier for next year, our national championships, our Olympic trials, qualifiers, as well as looking beyond on to 2028 in LA. So we really want to come back here to California and have more national events here. Along those same lines, Mr. McAtee and the board of directors have directed me to help with our regional events, our large regional events. So it was good to see Mr. Zanders here, reaching out to them in California, LBCs, to help them raise their regional events and get them more publicity, get more people here. Briefly, if I can comment on this, I put together some statistics. I'd seen on your agenda, item 6 was about gender diversity. Currently, USA Boxing's male athletes to female athlete ratio, female athletes make up about 12.5% of our membership nationally. In California, that's higher, it's 13.5%. But I also want to share our non-athlete membership for females is about 11.5% nationally, but only 9% here in California. So maybe you could use anything from that in there. Women's medal categories in the next Olympics hasn't been decided, but it looks like that will be on the upswing, with 2 more weight divisions being contested. So as such, we have been pushing a program to recruit more female athletes to participate in boxing, to basically let female athletes know that there's opportunities for them and that it's growing. I'm also a member of the Women's Commission for USA Boxing. Recently, that commission named 15 ambassadors around the country, which will engage in a social media campaign called She Can Box, which is aimed at that inclusion, that growing of females within boxing, and basically awareness that there's more opportunity.
Is that what you attribute the growth to awareness?
I attribute the growth to being in the Olympics in 2012, for sure. It's grown quite a bit in communities like Texas, New York, California, where there's strong, rich boxing traditions, and they've been more progressive in allowing them into gyms and participating, and frankly, more competition, so they can get better. And on that note, I wanted to mention that the commission, our female athlete representative is from the Bay Area, and also our head ambassador is also from California.
Thank you for addressing that. That's appreciate it.
One other note, in regards to the discussion earlier, we do take the suggestion of the commission serious. I will keep Andy Foster aware as Mr. Crow's appeal process moves forward, and we will provide constant updates of that information to you all. I will also, if he does decide to file an appeal, we'll be amending the reports, videos, and recordings that we've already supplied to you. If you have any questions for Mike or I, we're going to.
Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen. Questions?
First of all, thank you for the excellent reports and the details, and that's very helpful. It's what it was like. Looking at the Southern California financial report, it looks like there was a loss. Is that a loss that's taken by the LVCs. I'm looking at it's your last page of your report.
The losses reported, the LBC is very active in putting on shows. And if you look at the revenues that they generate from membership dollars, a lot of times the LBCs, and we don't regulate or how they spend their money. And it's my understanding, and I've talked to Joe Zanders about this, is that they take a lot of LBC money and put it into the event. So they may not be making money, but what they are is providing better services for their members. And they have the funds to do that. So they're not afraid to spend money on some events where other LBCs or gyms will use sanctioned events or club shows to raise some funds for their clubs.
Okay, but they pay the fees, the sanction fees to USA Boxing regardless of whether they're making money or not, the LBCs?
Yes, the LBCs across the country all pay the same fee.
There was some, if you could, I don't even address this, or there was, I think, some brouhaha about the ringside tournament with rumors of sanction fees were too high and was supposedly canceled.
Yes,
I'm going to give you an opportunity to.
Thank you for
Excellent.
the brouhaha. Love that.
I know brouhaha is a legal term. I can provide the written documentation also, but I'll give you a quick summary. The Ringside World Championships was started in 2001 in Kansas City. I'm very intimate and know about that because I worked for and I was the marketing director of USA Boxing Ringside at that time. The purpose of that tournament was to provide opportunities for boxers to compete, but more importantly, it gave Ringside, a for-profit company, an avenue to create relationships and sell boxing equipment. Up until that point, boxing was about a 9-month season, school year. By putting a boxing tournament in the middle of the country, in the middle of the year, we were able to provide more opportunity, but at the end of the day, it was a marketing opportunity for us being Ringside, which was a great tournament. The first time we did it was 780 boxers. It was the largest boxing tournament in the world, amateur boxing in the world the first time. It has grown in the last 17 years. The problem is that when we look at our insurance, a boxing gym, a club that puts on 15 bouts in a club show in a gymnasium in the Kansas City area pays $325 sanction fee. $300 goes to USA Boxing, $25 goes to the Missouri Valley. When Ringside puts on their tournament, which is a for-profit company that has over 10 million in sales, was paying the exact same amount. However, they were running 6 rings, 2 sessions a day, 30 bouts a day. And our belief in looking at our sanctioning process, which we followed, the sanctioning, because of the risk concerning that and being fair to our members, should have been about $80,000. On the open market, they would have had to pay $398,000 if they got insurance from Gavardi and $325,000 from Coles in Texas. We did take in the fact that they do donate to National Golden Gloves, Kansas City Golden Gloves, National Silver Gloves, and the NCBA, National Collegiate Boxing Association. So we believe, based upon the totality of everything, that a $45,000 sanction fee is correct. It follows our procedures, and they made a business decision not to pay that.
And this is, I think you explained it to us our last meeting, that there's this algorithm, so to speak, where you determine the sanctioning fees for different events or larger events.
Yes,
and this was done under that discretion.
Correct. It's a third-party sanction. Nobody at Ringside is a USA Boxing member, and so that makes it a third-party sanction. And then based upon that, and I believe I've already provided the documents to you all, the summary at the beginning of the year that explains all that. But there is a supplemental explanation after the president of Ringside canceled it. I did put out additional information that I can provide to Andy, who can provide to you.
But to clarify, the LBCs have just a set sanctioning fee. And this is only under the third party unaffiliated that you have this discretion.
It's both, in that the LBC, every LBC has a set amount, and then for this particular amount, third-party sanctions, which are about 26 of our 1,600 a year, are third-party sanctions that we review and actually.
But all LBCs are charged the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Appreciate seeing you as usual. Nice meeting you, Mr. Kent. Mr. Buster?
Mr. Chairman, John Frank from the United States Fight League is next. And John Frank from the United States Fight League is next. And I'm also working with Mr. Frank. He sent me in an unsanctioned event that will be taking place on May 19th. We have our enforcement staff reviewing that. So, Mr. Frank, thank you.
Good afternoon, John Frank, the United States Fight League. First off, I just want to mention one of our board members had passed away, so I wanted to just acknowledge him. Mario Mendez. He was a longtime board member, very generous person, union plumber, but he donated a lot of his own money to a lot of the kids for travel purposes, training. So he'll be greatly missed. So I just wanted to mention that first.
Thank you. If we had the bells, we would sound the bells.
We plan on something for him on our event on Saturday in Ontario, but we'll have a small tribute.
Sorry about your loss.
Thank you. So since the last commission meeting, we've had a few events. We've had one in Ontario in February, 20 bouts. We've had one in Sacramento in March with 7 bouts. And we've had one in Florida with 15 bouts. And in March, and in April, Santa Clara, 6 bouts, and also Sacramento, 14 bouts. The reason I mentioned Florida is because it is kind of intertwined with California for 2 purposes. One is we use the rules that were developed in California, but also because there's such a small pool of athletes. You have kids from California traveling to Florida to compete, and also from Florida traveling here to compete. So it's kind of intertwined. That's probably the reason why I added, even though it's not specific California business. The upcoming bouts, I provided the list on the handout. And then our running log of medical suspensions right now is 17 injuries for 1,096 athletic exposures, and they're kind of outlined on the report. And I'd just like to mention that a lot of these injuries probably wouldn't make it on the roster as an injury for maybe some other sports. They're fairly insignificant, but we know the sensitivity of the sport. We also know that there's a ongoing medical study on the sport, so we want to try to be as transparent with everything as possible. So anytime the ringside physician notices an injury, they're going to suspend the fighter. And then it can be sorted out later on if there's any follow-up to the study. So,
John, for me, I really appreciate the way that you report this. And I don't think you can over-report injuries to kids. This is good information, more visibility, more transparency. So I think you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. And on that note, I've been advised that there is a study, or they're looking, the Association of Ringside Physicians is looking into injuries and recommendations on youth MMA, which is basically pancreation. Dr. Don Musi is leading the association, and I did put him in contact with Dr. Adam Brooks and Dr. John Rodriguez, who have been running the injury study for the USFL, to provide them with what they have, rather than looking for data that might not be out there. So, I know they've been communicating. The difficulty is, I know both Dr. Rodriguez and Brooks, they are preparing, I think, for their board reviews or whatever this summer for orthopedic surgery. So they're fairly busy, but they're trying to make time to provide whatever information and maybe even do a presentation at the conference for the Association of Ringside Physicians in October. Other than that, we've just incorporated, we just made available Safe Sport. It's a program that provided to all sports under the U.S. Olympic Committee. And it basically is a preventative program for abuses of children and also how to report them, detect, report, and prevent child abuse in different types of degrees. And we made it available. It is a paid service for us. If we were under the USOC, it's free. Right now, they made it available for $20, so I don't want to make it mandatory. And I've gone through myself. It's a little bit of work. It's about 90 minutes. So I don't want to make it mandatory at this point because it's already difficult to get the coaches and officials to do the CDC training and some of the backgrounds and that. But it is. I do see the benefit of it, and hopefully later on maybe they'll make it blanket for all sports federations for free. They can maybe get the grant money.
It's
And I know some
$20
people-
per training session?
It's $20 per.
Go online and have to pay with a credit card or something?
Correct. And it's free for sports that are under the U.S. Olympic Committee. As of now, we do have a free resource they do provide for parents, free manuals and also resources on how to report abuses. That is free, but as far as the course, the 90-minute course, we get a certification. And it just rolled out actually last week. It's free for USOC affiliates, but it's fee-based for none.
Would you mind emailing Andy that information so we could look at that? And
Sure.
the website and the training and all that, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you share that? Yeah, please. Thank you. Vice Chair Lehman and I noticed for you and for ICAF, you don't have any financial reports for us or updates?
I submitted the financials for 2017. I think in the previous, in the February meeting.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you remind us perhaps what the responsibility is of the delegation for the financials? Is it quarterly? Is it yearly?
John submits them to me periodically, but annually is when he submits me because they file their tax return every year. JT, same way. Mr. Fossum's for-profit. It's a little bit different. But, Mr. Frank, no, I take that back. IKF California is a non-profit, but IKF is for-profit. So I have the annual.
Okay, and is it, as part of their delegation, what is the requirement to submit financials? Do you recall?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Let's do follow up on that and check and just make sure, not only that we tell you to bring them every meeting and you don't have to, we want to know, or if you're supposed to give them every 6 months or quarterly or yearly. Yeah.
I was under the understanding that it was annual.
Okay.
I could be wrong. And it's actually, I think we spoke about it at the last meeting because we were a little bit in red, about $200 or something.
Okay. Hey, you can just follow up.
I remember they run lots last time.
My salary has not increased.
Could report that. Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions for John Frank? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
Yes, sir. Next is IKF, so Steve Fossum with the IKF.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Steve.
Just to address the financials real quick, and not throwing this at Andy, but we weren't asked for the financials last meeting or this meeting. That's why I hadn't put them out there. We haven't done, so if you guys want, I can give them to you this week even, because we do them every year already for California. Our regular information sheet that we gave you guys is submitted in the folder that you guys are looking at right now. It's pretty much self-explanatory. I'd be more than happy to answer questions on that, but I want to bring to your attention a new study that we're doing now through IKF. There's been a lot of discussion on weight gain and weight loss on weigh-ins compared to the event day as a weigh-in the previous day, for example. So the last three events that we had that had pre-day weigh-ins, we did a little study here because we were kind of curious about how much of a weight gain we'll be looking at with amateur athletes. What were those results and those weight gains or weight losses even we found? And I have copies of this if you guys would like copies of this, but I'll run through it real quickly. And if you feel like interrupting me on any of the questions, feel free to do so. This was over a 3-event period. It was a total of 33 bouts with 66 athletes. The fighters who lost weight after the weigh-ins were 3. We were kind of surprised that a fighter would lose weight after weigh-ins. 2 of those fighters that lost weight after the weigh-ins, 2 of those fighters lost their bout, and 1 of those bouts ended in a draw. The fighters who gained weight after a weigh-in of the 66 were 63 of them. Fighters who gained 0 to 5 pounds after the official weigh-in, there was 18 of them. Fighters who gained 5.1 to 10 pounds, there was 22 of them. Fighters who gained 10.1 to 15 pounds, there were 21 of them. And there was 2 fighters that gained over 15 pounds. Fighters who won with more weight gain after the official weigh-in than their opponent was 16, and fighters who won with less weight gain after the official weigh-ins than their opponents was 15, so that was pretty close in there. The largest weight gain that we saw was 15.8 pounds. On that particular bout, it was a booked weight class of 127. The fighter who gained that 15.8 pounds was a 24-year-old fighter who entered this bout with a 4-2 record. He weighed in at 127 pounds, made the weight for the weight class, and he re-weighed in at 142.8. His opponent made the weight at 128 because it was a non-title bout, so a lot of the promoters give you a 1-pound leeway there on the weight, which we allowed him to do. His opponent weighed in at 128, which was 1 pound over the 127 weight bracket. When he re-weighed in, his opponent was 138.4. His opponent had gained 10.4 pounds. The fighter who gained the most pounds, at 15.8, he lost that bout by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 judges' cards. The second largest weight gain was 15.2 pounds of a booked weight class of 145. That fighter was 22 years old. He entered the event of that bout with an 0-0 record. He weighed in at weigh-ins at 148.6 pounds. He did not make the weight, but his opponent, since he was still within the legal weight spread, his opponent and his trainer waived it. He re-weighed in 163.8 pounds, again, a 15.2 weight gain. His opponent weighed in at 144 pounds on weigh-in day. The next day he weighed in at 145.2 pounds, a 1.2 pound gain, not much at all. However, the fighter who gained the most weight, he lost his bout by unanimous decision, 30-26 on all 3 judges' scorecards. The largest weight loss after the initial weigh-in was only 2 pounds. The fighter, there was a booked weight class of 120 pounds. The fighter was 22 years old and entered the bout with an 0-0 record. He weighed in at 117.2. The next day he re-weighed in at 115.2. His opponent originally weighed in at 119 and re-weighed in at 120.8, only a 1.2 pound gain. The fighter that lost the weight, he lost the bout also by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 judges' cards. Of the 33 bouts reviewed, 9 ended by TKO or KO, and of those, the fighters who gained 0 to 5 pounds lost by TKO 3 times. The fighters who gained 0 to 5 pounds won by TKO or KO 2 times. The fighters who gained 5.1 to 10 pounds lost by TKO or KO 3 times. And the fighters who gained 5.1 to 10 pounds won by KO or TKO 3 times. The fighters who gained 10.1 to 15 pounds won by TKO or KO 4 times. And the fighters who gained 10.1 to 15 pounds lost by TKO or KO 2 times. This particular part of the report is something that we're going to try to start including on all of our events that have a pre-day weigh-in and then a second day weigh-in. Just because there's been a lot of discussion with the pro side of MMA, and we first caught this at an event, a pro-am kickboxing event, where we saw the pros doing it, and we decided we're going to go ahead and start doing it with the amateurs. And what we do is we re-weigh them in when they check in the next day for their bouts, just to see what the difference was. We told the fighters this will not affect your bout at all. It has nothing to do with whether we cancel the bout or anything like that. We're just doing it as a study. And after that first time we did it, the one that struck me the most was a pro fight where a fighter came in a little over 20 pounds, I think, heavier than his opponent. And that kind of shocked us. However, what shocked me even more was the fighter that he fought stayed pretty much the same weight class. And the fighter who did not gain all that weight back ended up winning the bout. So we were kind of curious if that weight gain, that massive weight gain after the first weigh-in, does that help a fighter or does it, in a sense, hurt a fighter? So we wanted to really see that study. Of course, this is only three events with only 66 fighters, 33 bouts. So we're going to continue this on and try to see more of a percentage of where that weight gain helps, doesn't help, doesn't matter on KOs, TKOs. We have a couple other things we're going to add to this as well. We're going to separate the juniors and the adult fighters, for example, male and female, and kind of break it down to give more of a clear definition of what happens between a pre-day weigh-in and the weigh-in of the event, the day of the event itself, and then all the way through to the bout results. So, other than that, any questions?
Super interesting, statistics and very much what we're concerned with and with our 10-point plan. Just to perhaps an idea, maybe Dr. Williams can weigh in on this, is that instead of actual pound gain, you can do it as a percentage. Because, like 3 pounds for, bantamweight versus 3 pounds for...
We looked at that originally, but we wanted to break it down in the weight that they weighed it so you could actually see the difference basically more so. Because I presented it to a couple of people on our staff and they're like, well, what was 3 pounds of what? They were kind of confused. So we could do percentages easy. It'd be easy to transfer over for a percentage of body weight basically. And we have it both ways. It's just that the more I kind of pulled a couple of people that I presented to, and the weight and numbers made more, just from a general sense, made it more clear to them. But overall, I see your point. Yeah, it's giving percentages of the weight.
But Steve, what she's saying is, I've looked at this topic a long time, is the percentage is what matters. The pounds isn't. That's what I was talking with the IBF about. They got the 10-pound rule. What about 10%? Percent's what matters. Weight changes change. A bantamweight is not the same weight change as light heavyweight. And it's easy. I'm sure you know, but it's just that percent change formula. It's one formula, you bring it over, put the formula in, and drop it back down and do the whole sheet. Okay? When we do it both ways, we like to see it both ways. Just, you get some degree of shock factor with the number of pounds. But I don't care about the number of pounds. What I'm looking at is the number of percentage. Specifically, is it more than 10%?
And you're comparing the weigh-in weight versus fight day weight.
Right, that's the two. So if the weigh-in weight, for example, let's say you're weighing a 147-pound fighter, if he comes in at 143, as an example, and his weigh-in the day of the fight comes in at 155, we're not looking at the top weight of the weight class, we're looking at the weight that they actually weighed in. Of course. See the difference of, right? Of course. Okay.
Do you want to add for the study?
I agree. It's not one or the other, but having both pieces of information, the raw number and the percentage. But I agree, like you were saying, Andy, that 10 pounds in one person may be have very different physiological effects than 10 pounds in a based on their
The way we have it broken down in weight classes. I just don't want to flood you guys with too much. But I think that I don't think enough can be done on a study like this because there's so many factors involved in that weight gain and what happens to a fighter after they do the original weigh-in. And like I said, after that first event, I personally became very curious about, well, does that help a fighter when he gains all that weight back, or does it slow a fighter down? Does it make him sluggish? I'm very curious about what it was, and we were all very shocked when it came out. Just one difference, as far as whether there was no clear advantage, in other words, one way or the other is what it came out.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
My comments were going to be just to support that I think the notion amongst in the fighting world is that you're going to have an advantage by weighing more the day of fighting, but in fact you're finding that that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so my interest is in one, how much longer do you plan to continue doing these or keeping these statistics? And then I'm also mostly interested in how we would utilize this information, assuming it continues the trend that it's continuing, for I guess persuading fighters that hey, you don't really need. There's no incentive to you losing so much weight and then gaining so much the next day, because in fact there's no conclusive evidence that it's an advantage.
We want to continue it pretty much from here on through, because if we decide distinct advantage one way or the other, you're probably just like, oh, okay, we figured that, or we expected that. But the fact that it came out so even, we decided we're going to continue it and keep doing the two weigh-ins no matter what. On the day previous to the event, and day of. Of course, you're not going to do the same study on a day of the same day weigh-in, for example. But it was really interesting to see the numbers because, like I said, a lot of us anticipated to see that there was going to be a distinct difference of the guys who gained the weight and the girls who gained the weight, and we were even shocked even more so. We knew we had one fighter that was going to be the one that lost weight, but I was surprised to see even 3 out of 66 fighters. I mean, that sounded like a lot, but that sounded like a lot to us, and we were surprised the fighter actually lost weight afterwards. And then we also want to break it down into the, going back to what Andy was saying about the percentages, is also going to help in the junior weights too, because we have some junior fighters that are, down like, 10, 11, 12 years old, see what their weight gain and weight loss were basically. So, but yeah, it's just, there's so much more that can be put into this report of statistics-wise that just made it even more and more interesting. It got to the point where we could almost have too much, to look at and read, but I'm sure too much is never too much, but there's so many details of how you can break things down, like, what was the record of those fighters who gained the weight, who lost the weight? Did they win by a decision, win by a knockout? We thought that was important to find out if they were able to last the distance of a 3-round fight, or were they going to be stopped early and things such as that. So,
Do you or anybody else know about any other organizations keeping track of the same statistics?
Maybe kickboxing and Muay Thai, you mean?
Whether it be kickboxing or other mixed martial arts organizations?
Well, in California, the only ones even doing anything, we're the only in California doing that. John and JT and myself. I don't know if USA Boxing does it, but I don't even know of any other organizations, amateur-wise, nationwide, that even keep results. So, I mean, we're really, and I'm not saying that just to brag about California, but we're really ahead of everybody else. I don't know if anybody keeps even records of fighters.
So I'm just wondering if this idea, as it develops further, may spark, or be a spark or an incentive to professional organizations to kind of keep track. Once obviously the results come out a bit, as a way of again putting the message out there that it's not necessarily an advantage, and it goes along with our 10-point plan and everything else as well as the CSAC, but also beyond that.
One of the other things to consider is we've been using, who won the bout, who didn't win the bout, but there's other issues that we can look at in terms of the potential effect on this weight loss and rehydration on performance. So like we're collecting all this information, for instance, with the CQ Logics program that looks at things like speed of mental processing, reaction times, static and dynamic visual acuity, balance. So what we would like to do eventually is start marrying some of this information we have with the weigh-in with some other performance measures. And that'll give, we believe, fighters even more evidence that their performance doesn't improve with this, dehydration, rehydration scheme that they've been so used to. In fact, their performance likely decreases. But we have the ability to start collecting that kind of information, marrying some of that C3 Logics data on performance measures with some of the weight-related data. And then you have not only our safety concerns addressed by the 10-point plan, but kind of the carrot aspect of things is the performance aspect. And I think that's where we'll start getting even more buy-in from the athletes themselves when they see that their performance actually suffers. Maybe one way to look at that is the win-loss. There's a lot of factors that can go into that, but we should be able to show that these other measures, like their reaction times, their vision, their balance, the speed of mental processing, those kinds of things suffer with the dehydration and rapid dehydration.
I think as regulators, we're more interested in these kind of statistics than a fighter or a trainer. And I tested that out by asking a couple of fighters and trainers, hey, you want to know what your performance was the last couple of bouts when you gained weight, lost weight, whatever? They don't see it, and that's not downing them at all. It's just they have a different mindset. They're looking at whether they win the bout or not. We're looking at, is everybody safe? Did everybody come out of the bout safely? We don't have a horse in the race to who wins or who loses. Okay, so we're looking at more of a regulatory standpoint, making sure that there's health and safety involved, making sure everybody's safe and everything. Going back to one other point that you brought up about with the pros, and I believe, what's the test that the inspectors do with the pros at weigh-ins with the laptop? What is it? That thing I found, I don't know if you've ever seen it in action, that thing's pretty impressive.
That's what I'm speaking, that's exactly what I'm
I
talking
was
about.
blown away the first time I saw it. I wish we had the capability of doing that as an amateur. I mean, the little things that it tests for, I had no idea. It was kind of one of those things you didn't know what you didn't know. There was tests on it.
I think we did that. Did you, Andy? Did we do this, T3? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was stuff I didn't even know if they were capable of doing, which was just incredible. But yeah, marrying that with something like this and everything and having an overall picture, I'd like to see what these stats look like at the end of the year. When we have more bouts to compare them to and having an overall range rather than just 3 events. And then looking back and seeing, well, did this help a fighter's performance? How does his or her win-loss record vary from that? And matching fighters up as well that we've got a study for today, and they fight 6 months from now. Do they still have the same weight gain, weight loss, same results of their bout, et cetera, et cetera? And when these things all come together, it's when you start to really see the differences.
Win-loss record also important, but one thing that would be interesting, and I see this use the NFL as an example, is the duration of their career. If they engage in weight gain and weight cutting, how does it affect their career? Do they retire much sooner as opposed to folks that do the healthy weights?
Right, their performance all the time.
Right. That would be really interesting. That's a way to change behaviors, right?
Even on the stoppages, for example, we want to enhance this even more to see on the few that did end in a TKO or a KO, was it because of fatigue? Okay, like the referee stops contest, was it fatigue that stopped it? Was it damage to the body? Was it damage to like a head blow or a kick or a punch to the head?
Yeah.
What were the things that stopped that fighter who had that massive weight gain or didn't have a massive weight gain?
Right.
What were the results of that? There's, like I said, there's so many little branches that we can eventually, after quite a few of advanced surgical bouts, that we can bring together and say, look, there's a common core here to what's happening.
Excellent.
Great. So what you need like a college grad student intern
Yeah.
to devise the study for you and figure out, how to track it and do a spreadsheet. And summer's coming up, and a lot of them might want to do that.
Yeah, or make an actual database where you
Use
can input
CSV
it.
to, right,
and
to
have
set
you
it
guys be
up.
able to just look at it whenever you want to, basically.
Yeah,
So,
something to think about.
That's how UC Days.
yeah. Now, I think, look at the other contact sports. JT, you guys only do same-day weigh-ins, correct?
Correct.
Do you ever do a pre-day weigh-in?
I'm pro-ams.
Okay, so it would affect those guys just on the pro-ams. And John, you do all one-day weigh-in, right?
We do 1 day, but we have a provision to do a day before if we do a large open tournament, which we haven't done.
You guys just do same-day weigh-ins? Okay, so, and obviously the same-day weigh-ins is going to assure that it's going to be closer to the same weight, okay? But seeing the difference, we look at our delegation from the amateur side as one of our biggest things on our hit list, you might say, is preparing them to that next level. And that's why we like to throw in some of those pre-day weigh-ins ahead of time so they're prepared for that and they know what they're going to be expecting, basically. So I'm not saying it's good or bad either way. It's just that we want to give them that variety. They have that, plus all the promoters want to get that part out of the way, basically. But having those pre-day weigh-ins allows us to get this kind of data.
More data is probably always good.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent discussion. Anybody else? You look like you want to say something. No, okay. That was great. Thank you very much, Steve. Andy, I think you're on item D.
Yes, sir. Update on the C3 Lodge program. Sir, as of last week, the commission has tested 702 athletes in the C3 Lodge program. Now, we still have the 1,100 is the goal. We try to make that. Let me tell you the problem I went into. Should have thought this through when we initially started this. Didn't think about it. We're into it now. Bring it to your attention. Is we're starting to see repeats. Like fighters fight. We have 1,100 or 1,200 people in our licensing pool of professionals. It's true. We have them. But many times they fight more than once a year. So like my pool of getting new people tested is somewhat diminishing as I'm looking for baselines. So when I used to could, like, for example, we're running Bellator this week, we have 19 fights. I want you to think about that. 19 fights. Okay? So that gives you, that would initially think that, oh, we've got this big pool of people to test. No. A lot of these people, not a lot, but some of them, certainly have already taken the test. So we're getting baselines. Anyway, it's just, the reason I'm bringing it to your attention is we start to see the numbers start to slowly diminish, even though we're making the same degree of effort, if not more efforts, and that's the reason why, is we're seeing the repeats. Sometimes they'll take it again, they like it, the fighters kind of enjoy this test, some of them do, not all of them. Some of them do, it's kind of a fun test. They want to take it again, and we'll load that up as a second test or whatever. But by and large, we're trying for baselines here, and we're running into that little issue that I don't know why I didn't foresee that. Makes perfect sense now in my mind, but when we started it, oh yeah, we get all these.
We've got pizza parties at some gyms.
Yeah.
Get these people out of the woodwork.
Yeah, we get the baseline.
So are you, so we're trying to do baselines, but there's people you can test twice. Are we checking any differential between their baseline and subsequent tests?
No, we are, as staff, that would be something, once we get the baseline project done, then the MAC's going to start to review on it, and we can start that. And if we have to, then I suppose they can look at it then at that time.
Yeah, I would encourage, if there are people who have had the test before, they fall in between, to still recollect them, because now we can start looking at exactly that, or the changes between their initial baseline and post-bout, or have they recovered in between, or that kind of thing. And then the other possibility is to expand our abilities to test these individuals, even collect the baselines. So we talked about some of those options, such that potentially, in addition to the inspectors doing the C3 testing at events, we could arm a cadre of athletic trainers or physical therapists at certain entities across the state where individuals can go in and just get that baseline done, even unaffiliated or unconnected with an event. And other options too, to fill in and collect the rest of the 1,100.
With pizza.
Remind me, I should know, is licenses renew annually?
Yes, sir.
So perhaps you require a test to renew your license?
Well, that's part of our, that's in our regulation package, the examination of boxer applicants, where we may, not shall, may require the test for a license, but it's my understanding the MAC's wouldn't have done, so that's going to become part of the.
So you'll have it within a year, you'll have your baseline if it's mandatory.
Absolutely so. And this, this idea that some of these very very elite, high-profile trainers decide that they don't want their athletes to do it for whatever reason, run into that from time to time, is going to be squashed as soon as that regulation package finishes. Because really, this is about the health of the athletes. We're not trying to give people a hard time. It's a 17-minute test, but it's not worth causing a huge argument over at a weigh-in, or even at a pre-licensing, or even at even more than that, even going out of our way to do it at a different time. We've been having a little bit of problems with very high-profile athletes, but I'm working it out. It's not worth bringing to the commission's attention other than you sort of mentioned it in this context. But once we have that in regulation, it's a requirement and everybody knows. People will comply.
Good. Thank you.
Commissioner Martha has a question.
Dr. Williams, wasn't the idea to get I guess we need to a baseline of as many people as possible, but isn't the idea then to get a second reading or later reading so that we can measure the difference between the baseline and the next reading to see what changes occur?
Sure.
So that getting a second reading isn't, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good thing. We want that. That's right.
Okay, are we on item E?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
While you're fixing that, this is the report on the 10-point plan expansion. I hope everyone has seen the HBO Tim Lampley fight game segment with Dr. Williams and Andy. I don't know what you all thought, but I thought it was excellent. I thought it was just excellent. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you for representing the state so well. And that was really, really good. So if you haven't seen it, please do check it out. Tim Lampley's fight game. HBO.
Sorry, in brevity, this weight cutting problem, it's a full-blown crisis in mixed martial arts. It's becoming an issue in boxing. We're starting to see boxers a little bit, getting a little bit more weight than they should. We just had a card at the StubHub Center this past weekend. One of the boxers, they gained 14% of their body weight. Almost 21 pounds overnight. Having said that, boxing, as you know, works different than mixed martial arts. Is that mixed martial arts controls the belts in both sides of the card. By that I mean the promoter has both fighters and their own belts. A little easier to tackle on that side because you have a licensee who's issuing the contracts for their own belts. In example, UFC and Bellator. You don't really see UFC and Bellator doing promotions together. Boxing, that's different. The promoters don't control both sides of the card. I mean, not promotional. And you often have co-promoters working together to promote the show. Okay? So you have fighter A is going to fight fighter B and promote the upper echelon. And the belt is not controlled by a licensee. It's controlled by a sanctioning body that's not a licensee of this commission. We work with them, but they're not under our jurisdiction. Only in its fact as we work with them and they have to, we're the regulators, but we don't have control over that belt. And that's been long established practice. We've got to get their buy-in. Okay, they have their own medical requirements because when they go overseas to other places, they're acting as their own regulator in a lot of these places. And they send supervisors, like we send inspectors. They have their own core. But we've got to get their buy-in on this medical. If this is a medical issue, I see this as a medical issue. And IBF already has, as maybe Commissioner Aiello was putting out like the pounds. They already have the 10-pound rule. Okay? The IBF already has that. We're talking about you can't gain more than 10 pounds from the day of weighing in the next day. The 10-point plan it uses a percentage, uses 10%. I think that's probably certainly more liberal of the pound amounts. But it's something that we're seeing that 19% of the boxers that we checked over the last 3 years wouldn't make it. 19% of the boxers in California are gaining more than 10% between weigh-in and fight day. 19%. Now, I really believe that, and by the way, I've invited the sanctioning bodies. The WBC's coming, President of the WBC, President of WBO. I've invited the President of the IBF. I've invited the President of the IBO. And I'm working on the WBA. Okay? We have some confirmation. Okay, WBC and WBO are confirmed, and Lindsay told me that IBF's going to be there also. Okay, it'll be the first time in I can't think of another time if I can get them all where the sanctioning body presidents have sit down in a room. Okay, we need some agreement on this, and I know Chairman Carvello is going to help me with this. We're going to all sit down just like we did the Mixed Martial Arts Summit. We've got, obviously everybody's invited. It's a stakeholder meeting, but my goal is not to try to convince promoters that this is a good idea, because if we can somehow incorporate the 10-point plan, certainly we can do it in California, no question. Dr. Williams is saying it's going to expand beyond California. The best way to do that is to attach it to championship contests. Trust me, these boxers want to be, eventually, they want to be the champion. That's what young kids that start, they dream about getting to that place in life, to be the champion. And they will comply. And if part of the compliance is to be the world champion is you can't gain more than 10% between weigh-in and fight day, they will comply. That will become
like that. They'll train like that.
And they will train like that, exactly. And because this whole weight cutting thing is all an advantage to how can we somehow gain some kind of advantage. And if that advantage has been taken away, okay, and some of this came from the Quig Valdez fight. We've got two things that we're looking at here. You also want to address, and part of our summits, we want to address the other anomaly, which is less of a safety issue and more of a financial issue, and that's the issue of paying to be bigger. Okay? It's a financial decision to be larger per our contracts in California. It's a financial decision. Now, obviously, the belt's taken off the table, so that's a plus for the sanctioning body. You can't win the belt, but if you beat the guy or the female, next time you may get to fight for the belt again, and it's just like Commissioner Martha mentioned earlier. Boxing has such an interesting way of the money just flows in with the wins, and there's a financial incentive sometimes. And I'm not saying Mr. Quigg paid to be bigger. That's not exactly what I'm saying. But we have certain instances where it's certainly been brought to my attention. I get phone calls. Hey, Andy, they didn't try to make the weight. They just showed up bigger. What are you going to do? Well, the penalty's in the contract. They're fined for it. That's it? Yes, sir. That's all that we're doing. Now, we've addressed this on the MMA side to great effect, I might add. I think this has been helpful. Where we're finding the 20% of the win bonus too, which was always part of the purse to start with. Okay, but we've made that correction. Certainly not advocating increasing the penalty exactly. I just think a discussion about this particular thing needs to be discussed at this summit as we're talking about it. We've got two issues. We've got the big overarching issue of this weight gain for competitive advantage. Sanctioning bodies are all coming because California is the most the biggest, most active boxing state. We tied for first last year with the number of world titles and the number of titles that were given out according to box rank at 38 each. Okay, Nevada and California tied. And we deal with this issue on a very regular basis. So it makes sense for this commission to address this. And I really feel like that if we can get sanctioning body buy-in, this problem begins to change.
And that summer's June 6th?
7th, June 7th. It's a, you may ask why I picked June 7th. We have Rio Santa Cruz Mares 2 on June 9th. That will be the day before, the day of the pre-licensing. Everybody's going to be downtown anyway, and we have so many world titles on that. we have world titles on that event, so some people are going to be here anyway. So it makes sense for people's schedules. We're all here, and I've got the Sarah building, and when I say Heather has got the Sarah building reserved for us for our summit.
June 7th.
June 7th, yes ma'am.
Okay. Any comments or other questions? But more information will be forthcoming about the summit to the commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay.
Staffing update. We have 2 staff out on maternity leave right now. Okay, right now. So we're running the office in Sacramento with 2 office technicians and with 3 analysts with Sophia and me. Okay.
It's a busy season now.
Oh, it is, and we have a student assistant retired. We got another one. Well, we had one picked out, but he accepted a different job, so we're back. But we're looking for another.
So what's your total full times, including you?
In the office?
Yes.
That we got right now, we got 7 up there.
You have 7 current full time.
Is that right? Okay.
And then part time students, or you part timers?
We have one. We have one that's part-time student.
What's the budget allocation? How many positions?
We have budget allocation for 10. But we have the other 2. They're just on maternity leave, but I can't fill them obviously because they're gone.
You don't have a way to do that on a temporary basis, right?
No, so we've got these student assistants that we're trying to get in. We got one, and we're trying to get another.
Did you pull from another department?
I don't think Yeah, it's
in a pool.
So you have 9, the 2 out on leave, and so one open full-time position. Your budget you're allocated for, and you had somebody but you lost them. So that's where we are today?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I've asked you to think about this. What would be helpful to you in addition to the 10 to not just accomplish your day-to-day responsibilities, which are frankly incredible, but to provide redundancy.
Sure.
Because, for example, you take a week off, everyone gets to take a vacation or a break, everyone gets to be sick, and
sure.
So have you thought about that?
Yes, sir. And I'm working with the department on getting that chief athletic inspector reclassification that was eliminated back. And the department and I are working together on that. And it's my hope, I don't know how quick these things move, but it's my hope that when we're at the next meeting in San Diego, I can report positive news on that front. Because let's be clear, that position needs to exist. That position existed for, I believe, from 1930 up until last year when it got taken.
Okay, so there's that one. That's an obvious
Yeah.
reinstatement of the position. What about others? And now I'm asking your opinion.
Yeah, with the others, sir, I have to be careful with the budget because we're specially funded. So we've got a good year right now. We've got money coming in. I'm careful to create a situation like we had in 2012 when we entered into a recession. The commission can quickly run out of cash. I saw revenue falls from, what was it, $1.8 million to $1.3 million in 1 year. And they were still budgeted for like $1.9 million. You see my...
Well, we know how careful you are as a fiscal hawk.
Yeah.
You've got us fiscally sound, and we appreciate that our reserves are over $1 million, right?
Yeah.
But since your primary responsibility is health and safety, you need appropriate staff. And I'm not comfortable, frankly, that you have appropriate staff.
Sure.
So I'm, once again, saying that to you for the record, that you ought to consider that and ask for some help.
Okay. I'm certainly asking for that chief athletic inspector position to be reestablished. Okay. So, and then once we get that, I'll let you know. Okay. Yeah. That position's crucial. And I'm doing those functions, which I'm fine to do those functions. I'm capable, qualified to do those functions, but it's like you said, redundancy is important.
That kind of situation is not sustainable long term. I can assure you of that. So, yeah. So when will you have an update for us on that position?
I'd say within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because me and the department actually got the recent update from me recently.
Okay. Look forward to that. Okay, G, you skipped over your event schedule. If you want to touch on that real quick, please. It's at the back. Commissioners, if you have any questions, there it is. It looks very exciting and a lot of activity. Shall we move on to the next item? We have to go back. And we are back to agenda item number 6. Discussion of possible creation of a task force to research issues related to gender equity in combat sports. Andy?
Mr. Chairman, this was an item that really, I think really when we first started talking about this item, at least when I got brought into it, was when Paige Van Zant's interview came out, the book came out. There were some revelations in the book that I think were shocking to everybody that read it and looked at it. So that was where it kind of stemmed from, and then we wanted to start addressing issues that are specifically related somewhat to. And we don't want to just say necessarily female issues, but I'll go with the female portion right now, is HBO just did the first World Championship female fight ever that they've ever done. It was here in California using 2-minute rounds. Okay, so one thing we will look at is why is mixed martial arts the same for females? I'm talking about 5-minute rounds, same rules, same everything. Why is females in boxing 2-minute? That's one of the things that the task force was wanting to look at. One of the things the task force was wanting to look at is why is the pay disparity in female boxing and male boxing so wide? I mean, there's all this talk in the press. You can turn on the news and talk about pay inequality in males and females. Look, I get some of the entertainment value and all that type of thing, but the pay disparity between males and females in boxing is significant, and I think it should be. It's more significant in boxing than it is in mixed martial arts, and so there's got to be a reason for that. And so Commissioner Lehman, I know she was talking about these issues. She's probably
excuse me a second, but when we discussed what agenda items to include, we talked about bringing this up to the commission as a discussion item. We certainly could establish a task force. We could establish a subcommittee these 6 items here are for discussion purposes. It's not, certainly not limited, they're meant to be exclusive, but we thought that it might be something worthwhile to look into. I don't know if Commissioner Raymond, Vice Chair Raymond would like to add something to that, but we're open for any thoughts on how to move this agenda forward. What do you think?
I think one of the big issues is the work of identifying the issues. I mean, I think partly there's perhaps stuff out there that we don't know, and how do we get to know about it? And to that extent, I want to clarify that the sexual harassment and gender competitions, that's not out of any situation that IO's commission knows about, but that's just in general. Maybe it's happening and we don't know. And I think the task force first task, if you would be to identify what are the issues and what should be looked at. And I think a part of that too is a way to communicate, like a hotline or some, just because I think there is not that flow of information, even identifying issues, and heaven forbid it has to be, like a book by, a young fighter who had to endure stuff that no one knew anything about, and there was not any way to report it or disclose it. And I think it's a very apropos topic, and our commission is fortunate to have 2 female fighters and with experience in the sport, and that should be used for the benefit of all our stakeholders.
Commissioners, what can we do? Anybody have any thoughts or recommendations on a subcommittee to discuss the establishment of a task force and to identify task force goals and objectives? Or?
I have a comment.
Please.
So you're all by now familiar with the Contact Sports Foundation. Arnold's is on it, and they're the ones who, along with this commission, Andy, and MMA Fighting LLC, brought you the MMA Severity Index. They actually have a women's issue subcommittee as well. They started it last year. They have had a couple of meetings, and they are a little bit ahead of us. They started discussing what kinds of issues to take on. On this subcommittee are Tracy Lessatar-Smith from Bellator, Jill Diamond from the WBC, one of their board members, Lisa Teeler, Andy and JT both participated in telephonic conferences to discuss issues. So perhaps whatever we decide to do, the commission should work with them so that we don't cover the same grounds that they've already covered, and also join forces with them so that we can work faster maybe, and also work with the stakeholders and other people so that,
That sounds excellent.
That's an idea.
Yeah. So how about a suggestion? We establish a subcommittee, maybe with Commissioners Layman and Shenarkides, and maybe JT, if you're on that other subcommittee, you would like to help with that, and then you all could start to meet and discuss and follow up on what you both have said about things that we need to do, identify issues, work with other stakeholders, and then it could turn into a task force. Does that make sense? Anybody?
I'll just add to the list of issues to consider the issue of head injury and traumatic brain injury. We know that in sports with similar rules, there are gender differences in terms of the risk of concussion, duration of symptoms, females being more apt to sustain a concussion symptoms, being a bit more significant than males in sports with similar rules. So if you take basketball, volleyball, soccer, those kinds of things, the head injury risk is higher in females. There may be a number of reasons for that, but that should be an additional aspect of the issues that we address.
I should probably mention also on the foundation committee, subcommittee is Dr. Goodman, Dr. Marceau. Yeah, so they're I forget who else is on it, but there is medical support on it as well.
Are you all be supportive of establishing a subcommittee to work on this matter? Yeah.
Yeah,
First step, establish subcommittee. Are you okay to serve on that? Commissioner Martha, are you okay to serve on that?
Sure.
JT, are you willing to serve on that?
Absolutely.
Any other volunteers here today willing to serve on that? Mike McAtee, all right, sir.
Mike, or Mr. Cameron?
Maybe somebody from USA.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Steve, thank you. Very good. That's great. That's a good, really appreciate that. And you don't have to, it's not all set in stone today. We can, the folks that are on the subcommittee can invite you to join, and you'll figure out your own, agenda of meetings and who will run those meetings. So here's a good first step, I think, if you will. So you can be okay with that? Any objections? Excellent. So we have a subcommittee. Andy, we will help the subcommittee organize, and yes, please appreciate that. You can designate somebody in your office to assist them, and we look forward to their next report, whatever else we can do to support them. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 7. Discussion of the 2019 strategic plan. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, it's about that time again, and this is just the pre-stage, reaching out to Solid, letting them know that we have to begin this formal process. But these were some ideas that, frankly, you and I discussed about possible things we could talk to the full commission about with the new strategic plan ideas that we had. The first one was the CSAC office staffing redundancy, the lack of official database for kickboxing.
Speak up.
Discussing increasing the TV tax cap from $35,000 to $45,000 next sunset review. Increasing the gate tax cap from $2 million to $3 million next sunset review. Tribal outreach, trainings and agreements. Pension outreach, and CSAC applications and licensing database.
So, commissioners, these are all initiatives that the commission is interested in, certainly our executive officer is interested in. Put here to inspire you to think about them and maybe make any comments or contributions to this list. Again, it doesn't have to be right this minute, but at any point in time, information to float to Andy to help support, enhance these items, or add to them is welcome.
If I could just bring this item to the commission just quickly,
sure.
That I'd like to consider adding is, as you've probably noticed, the TV industry and the entertainment mediums are starting to change. And you would agree with that. We're getting into more internet type things. We're getting into more. There's less pure license fee TV value contracts than there used to be. There's more of a trade or time buy or a buy and also the commercials type model. There's more of this going on in the industry, which means that the value of these contracts are really kind of zero in many aspects. So when we approach, we need to keep that in mind. And one idea that I think would kind of solve this problem is the fee for the TV if they have TV or entertainment medium, I suppose would be the way that I would phrase it, is it should be 5% of the contract up to the cap, or 5% of the total value of the purses up to the cap, whichever's more. What I can assure you, I've been doing this a while, is those TV purses, whatever that thing's worth, correlates greatly to the purses that are on that sheet. Okay? I can assure you that somebody that's paying out $2 million in purses, there's some money that's worth something. And for the promoter to tell me it's not worth anything is difficult for me to believe when I'm sitting here looking at a $200,000 gate. There's no way a promoter's going to purposely lose $1.8 million plus expenses. That's kind of an extreme example, but I'm seeing it over and over and over. And again, and this would be a quick fix. Boom. It's 5% of the TV value. This is the idea I have for the commission. Obviously, this would have to go to the legislature. We have to talk with it. This is ideas. Or 5% of the total value of the purchase.
Commissioners, any comments or questions about these items? Yes, sir. Commissioner Allen.
So I just want a point of clarification on the process for these. What is the time frame that we're looking at to come to some kind of recommendation or conclusion about these items or any additional items that we would think of?
What would you think, sir? End of the year?
Well, I think you have to decide what works for you. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have this wrapped up by the last meeting of the year. Us to have a final document probably at the last meeting.
All of these, maybe we should prioritize these tasks.
A document, a strategic plan document, not necessarily resolving each task.
No,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's to work
I love the way
on
you think about it. All right.
for like the next 3 years.
So then maybe the next step, as was suggested on the committee earlier, is to kind of gather some information, a summary, some context, either verbally or written, so that we can digest it a little bit. So like, I can understand maybe 2 or 3 of these, or have an understanding of two or three of these, like the pension outreach and that kind of thing. But the others, it would be great to have a context so that we're able to formulate ideas or think about, how to make recommendations towards this. Sure. And again, I'm clarifying because I'm not sure if the point of this item being on the agenda today was to actually have a discussion on each one of these items, or just to present them for the first time for us to kind of start thinking about down the line, making recommendations on these specific items, and maybe more if there are additional ones that the commissioner would think of.
It's the latter. It's just what you just said.
So just the first presentation.
Yeah. And some of these, you're right, some of these are being worked on.
Yeah.
And they need to be prioritized, and we need to see what should be on and maybe shouldn't be.
Okay.
So we get input, right?
So then I would suggest maybe as the next step is just input and summary, that kind of thing, and then I guess that gives an opportunity for commissioners to come up, if there are other opportunities to think of those as well.
So also, at least the sunset review is 2020.
2019.
It's 2019. So that's next year. So we're going to have to go before
prioritize.
the committees and the legislature to have these discussions.
Okay.
So we need to prepare for that. That's part of this process. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Andy and I went through that last year as well, or 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
If I remember correctly, we did maybe this one with our retreat in San Diego, maybe?
That's right.
Like 3 years ago?
That's right. And there'll be, it's my hope that you'll see him again. Perhaps not at the San Diego one, maybe, but at the one following, and then wrap it up in Sacramento.
After the retreat, that's
Any other comments on agenda item number 7? Agenda item number 8, subcommittee update, pension fund subcommittee. Commissioners Lehman and Ayala, do you have anything you'd like to update the commission on? In addition to the executive officer's report?
I defer to Andy.
We almost had somebody to give a check to, but we didn't make it was an assessed thing, so. We almost had a check presentation and we did, but it wasn't, we weren't able to work it out, so they got their check anyway. Okay. But we've got several in the pipeline, and so that's the goal. I mean, certainly we're in the heavy season right now. If we can get one of these out in the event, I feel like it would spur some interest because people would see somebody get a check and they tell their friends. So that's kind of that's the hope. That's what we're trying to get.
And they take blow up checks.
Yeah. Commissioner Lehman asked for a report of the eligibility and the payment summary, and I provided that in this report. So that's in addition.
Yeah, it's good, right? It's a good thing. Okay. Right. Yes.
Just, when we talked about it last meeting, we were going to try to do some kind of formal thank you to WBC for their efforts in helping us find the boxers.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Okay.
Maybe when we do the summit, make sure it's on the agenda.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be a good thing for the summit also, because we could get the other three to help us as well.
Yes.
It'd be a good idea.
Make sure we have materials there and in Spanish. Okay. Please.
Were a number of boxers identified as a result of that WBC effort?
Yes. Yes.
How many is there a count?
I can get that from you, sir, but I can think of 4 right off the top of my head. Okay, I know this don't sound like a lot, but that's pretty good.
It's 4 more than
no.
All the
time.
The general question I had is that if you look at your graph here in 2014 was obviously the largest amount, at least from 2009 on. And it seems like there's a trend where we give out more some years than others. It looks like based on 2017 that we're hopefully climbing back up in terms of the disbursement of these funds. Is that your assessment looking at 2018?
If you flip the next page, that was kind of the purpose of that chart, is to show that we've given out, it's the same in C3 logic, is that we've given out so many that the pool of due payees is getting smaller. And so that's why we're not finding them. Because we've done such a good job of finding the ones that
there's less and less, or the number of dollars is decreasing that we're actually eligible to get.
Yes, for the record, in 2014, there were 70 boxers eligible, and right now there's only 44.
Great work, and thank you, all of you, for that continued effort. Okay, if there's not any other comments on that agenda item. We really don't have members of the public here, so there's no way to find out. Yes,
just real
you're a member of the public, Steve.
On the thing that Andy brought up about the kickboxing database, I've said several times there was a guy that we had that had one developed and everything through ABC, was approved through ABC and everything, but since no one used it, he closed it down. And I don't know if is there any funding we can help with him to get it back up on the server again? Because it was already done, and everything that ABC wanted it to be done, everything they asked to have it done, do and everything was all done completely. And he just never got the support from the states to want to use it. But we used it all the way up until the server went down, and it was just a funding thing to keep it up there. Is there any kind of cash flow or anything that we can help out with that?
I have an idea to talk through with Andy to actually approach, and I think with support of the department or the agency, to contact the Department of Technology here in the state and ask them about their development, how they can support us. So Andy and I will.
But it's already done. I give you guys his contact number through Andy or whatever.
Yeah, please give it to Andy.
Have you contact him directly, basically. The site's done. It's just not up on the server.
Excellent. So we can interact with the Department of Technology and see what they can do. Recommendations they may have. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay, agenda item number 10. Business and Professions Code, Section 18640.5 requires the commission to invite stakeholder testimony at commission meetings in order to identify actions that may lead to greater opportunities for licensees to participate in major professional boxing contests. If anyone is welcome to give public comment here at this point on that item. I don't see anyone here present to do that. Move on to agenda item number 11. Any public comment on items not on this agenda? Anyone willing to? Okay. And so, item number 12 would be the next meeting. Can you tell us about the next meeting, Mr. Foster?
It's in San Diego, sir.
We can't hear you.
It's in San Diego, sir. I'm still working on getting a venue.
Okay. Someplace accessible?
Yes, sir.
And really accessible to inspire people to.
I'm hoping for working with hopefully maybe Taylor Vacancy's got something for me.
Yeah,
the new building, new,
and they're new
building, not the old one, new ones.
We're stuck up in some tower.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Andy and I went, Andy took me to the inspector training that we had last week, and there were a lot of San Diego people. They were really excited about having our next meeting in San Diego.
Okay. Sure. Good.
I'm more excited than you, though.
You're right. I'm excited.
Very good. Commissioners, anything else? Item number 13, we are adjourned.